Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to our April 15th, 2021 regular called board meeting. At this time, I'd like to call our meeting to order, and we would like to start our meeting with the pledge. So if everyone could stand at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, do we have any revisions to our agenda?
We did add one item down under superintendent's report. It's just an informational item concerning a possible walkthrough of the building ATC in May. So no action items.
Okay. At this time, we'd like to discuss the Estill County Area Technology Center principal.
Go back up to B.
The reminder to sign in if you want. Anybody that wants to sign in can.
And then B.
And then we're up to the Area Technology Center principal.
There you go.
And
Good
Mr. Coy Hall.
Hello, my name is Coy Hall. I've been named the new principal of the Estill County Area Technology Center. I want to let everyone know how excited I am.
Sorry, everybody can hear you.
Okay.
On the airwaves.
Okay. My name is Coy Hall, and I've been named the new principal at the Estill County Area Technology Center. I'm really excited to be a part of this team, to be a part of Estill County School District and also PAL as well, to join these two districts together and offer a lot of new and innovative opportunities to our students and the communities. I'm originally from Lee County. I've taught up in Kenton County up near Cincinnati for 1 year, and I've been teaching for 13 years at Clark County Area Technology Center. So I was a welding instructor there. So does anybody have any questions?
Welcome. We're glad to have you. We're super excited about this new venture for us.
Oh, I was telling Mr. Saylor, I've got a lot of emails, and it's been really overwhelming, and it's been pleasantly surprising, the welcoming that I've gotten here, and I've been I'm really grateful for that, and I know that we're going to do some really great things going forward, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm really excited. You know, if you all need anything or have any questions, just let me know.
You're going to have a beautiful facility to work.
Oh, it's going to be very beautiful. And there's going to be a lot of new programs that I think is going to take this community, you know, some places. Some are a little bit new to me that I've not been aware of and around, but that's great because then that gives me opportunity to learn some new things too.
Great.
So.
Does anybody have anything?
I'm just glad to meet you. Yeah, it's not Lee County blue, but
I know.
it's pretty blue. So
Yeah,
Welcome to the engineer family.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate it. Glad to be an engineer.
Thank you.
Well, I can tell you that we knew that we had a great round of interviews, but one of the things I think that really impressed the committee about Mr. Hall was when we basically gave every candidate, now do you have any questions for us? And his first question was, he said, I know that I'm going to be starting pretty soon, and he does start on May 1. We've got temporary office space here in our office until his office will be open, which his office will probably be open sometime early June. I'll ask Jeremy to really get a jump on that area if they can and get it ready so he can get in the building. But his one ask was, is it okay that if I work on Saturdays that I can help my students at Clark County finish their programs? And that was his only ask. You know, and I think that tells you a lot, I believe, about his character. Based on his character recommendations that came to us. So I'm really excited. Mr. Orr was part of that interview committee, Dr. Orr at Powell County, and very impressed. He was our unanimous selection. And he's not a hometown boy, but he might as well be. He's right there in Lee County, so he knows the area, knows the kids, and we're thankful to have him. We've already met a couple times. We got another meeting next Wednesday and moving forward, so we're glad to have him.
And my mom lives here in Estill County too now. So they had to relocate because of the flood, and so they've had to go back to Lee County temporarily and then come back. So,
Glad to have you.
thank you so much. Welcome aboard.
And Ms. Isford, maybe before we move on, and I think it would be appropriate at this time, you know, Mr. Hall was one of the interviewees for that position, but so was Mr. Potts, our high school teacher that unfortunately had a medical emergency this past week while he was visiting family in Western Kentucky, and of course passed away. And it's been a really difficult time for our high school this week and for our school community. I know that the funeral is scheduled for Saturday there in Winchester at his home church, and Mr. Potts was a good man, and we miss him deeply. And I think, as before, if it's okay, if we could do a moment of silence here before we move forward, just to honor his contribution to our school district for the years that he was with us, and remember his family as well.
Okay, so at this time, if we could all just bow our heads and take a few minutes to remember Mr. Potts and honor him and all of the contributions that he made to our school system. I'd like to thank everyone, and just please continue to keep the high school and Mr. Yost and those students and Mr. Potts' family in your prayers.
Yes, because I'd like to say I've known John since he was probably about 10 years old. I met him when I worked at Beans Creek Baptist Camp. His grandfather was in charge of it, and so I've known John and the family since he was a tall, gangly young man, you know, and he won't be hard to forget. Very good, nice family.
Okay, thank you all. At this time, we're ready to move along to our facilities and construction updates. And we'd like to start with our Area Technology Center. Do we have any updates on that?
Well, we've got Peter with us. Kenny had, Mr. Kenny Davis, he had a school activity with one of his children, and then Mr. Jeremy Faulkner, his wife is currently not feeling very well, and he needed to go home and be with her, but Peter, of course, is here to fill in, and I think he can do a good job.
Well, I was going to open with, you know, you're taking a step down because I'm not here every day. So obviously Jeremy has his finger on the pulse of the project, and but we had a great progress meeting this afternoon with Kenny and Jeremy both. And all I can tell you guys is on this project, all the trades are just super engaged and committed to bringing this thing through. The substantial completion date hasn't changed since last month. We're still looking at around June 21st for substantial completion, and July 22nd for final completion, which is really good. Sort of, if you all can imagine the building as you know it to be, the way that this thing is sort of progressing, the Area B in the back, which is 1 story, is going to be the first piece to get finished, and then Area A, which is the 2-story building in the front, will be next, and then the pedway itself, and the last piece to go will be the pedway tower on the high school side, and that's sort of the way that they're moving through. The good news on this one, you know, I'm there today. I see them installing the elevator. I see finishes in some rooms, like floor finishes going in. And today in the progress meeting, we were talking about punch list and punch list work. 2 months ahead of substantial completion date, and that's really good news. And that's, from my perspective, I think that's sort of a good sort of rundown for you guys, but I'll be happy to try my best to answer any questions that you have about it, if you do.
That far ahead, that's pretty impressive.
And I think Peter would agree, the big milestone was getting the permanent utilities in the building, and that's been done. And so the heat and air, or in this case, well, I guess there is some heat going on in the afternoons, probably on
Yeah.
these chilly nights, but it is operational. So that's what's allowing the finishes to start taking place, and we won't know that place within the next 2 months. It's really, it's been unreal, the work that's went on out there. So it's a hats off to the design team, it's a hats off to our consulting engineers, and as Codell is our construction manager. So it's exciting to see what's going on out there every day. So I
Great.
don't know if y'all have any other questions for Peter?
Peter's always had the charge under budget and ahead of time, so it sounds like we're doing well with that.
That was actually used on him today concerning the high school project.
Yeah.
We got good news on here in a minute. I'm not going to spoil it, but you're getting ready to get some good news under 2C here in just a minute.
Yeah,
Okay. So,
all right.
ready to move along. I think we have pay app number 20. We'd like to discuss that.
Yeah, we do have pay app number 20. It's in the amount of $471,672.87. It's been reviewed by Ross Tarrant and by the construction manager, and it is ready to be paid, and it's my recommendation that you all do so.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Brian, do we have a second? Sheila? And I'd like to call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And just to add, Ms. Donna, to that, we just submitted a $3.7 million reimbursement request at Work Ready Skills Initiative, and Peter signed off this afternoon. We should be getting a check next week, or a transfer next week for our first reimbursement on Work Ready Skills, and Ms. Carpenter with Codell submitted our EDA second reimbursement this week as well. So we'll be receiving a little bit over $1 million from EDA. So it's important that those grant funds be deposited, because we were running out of capital revenue in order to pay our bills, but we'll be okay now with that money coming in. So just an update on that progress on those two areas, and we're ready to submit EDA number 3. Angie and Sherry are beginning to check pool on that for the last 3 pay apps, 17, 18, and 19. And the news about that is we're at 76% completion on the project.
Yeah.
Good news. Okay, so we do have a change order for approval, number 13-4. Would you like to discuss that?
I mean, I'll be happy to let you know what I know. Again, I'm sort of, Jeremy was the driver behind this, but the fire suppression connection to the water main, as anticipated in the design, is my understanding that the main could not be located where it was shown on the documents, right? They tried to dig and locate it, and they could not. So they were able to move, I think, plan south to a location where they knew they could tie into the water line. And the cost for this change order is a result of the labor and the piping to install that line. And Jeff, you may have a little bit more information on it than I do, because I know they were working with you.
Well, we believe the water line is there. It's just the fact that in a lot of the middle school work and the building of that parking lot that sits right in front of the ATC, that water line is probably somewhere north of another 10 to 15 feet deep, and they just could not locate it. I mean, they got afraid. They were digging so deep that they were getting into a trench situation. It was hazardous to workers to be in that trench. And that's a big cost. But also, without the fire system being hooked up, that meant we had no water, which meant we had no HVAC. And at some point in time, it was either get it done or delay starting up HVAC, delay the progress, and we didn't have time to delay. So Kenny and Jeremy both assured me this was reviewed by Ross Tarrant as well in terms of the cost, and it's within line based on the construction documents, and I'm
Yes.
asking you all to go ahead and give it approval.
Okay, do we have an approval?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Carrie Smallwood, do we have a second? Tammy Hardy. Okay, I'd like to call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And so you guys know, Tammy, you and Carrie, a lot of times this change order had already taken place, and we would have lost 2 weeks if we had not went ahead and approved it ahead of time. The board in the past, if you all are still okay with that, I will consult with them. We've got about 2 change orders coming up on the bus garage. It needs to be approved before our next meeting. I mean, I can call you back and have a meeting, but if it's not out of line, if it's within line based on the values, in every contract, there's a statement of values that they use to determine whether or not you're being overcharged for any type of change order work. So once they review it, they know automatically. They won't even send it to us if it's not in line. So it just helps us to go ahead and move forward. I still got to have your all's approval on it, but I sort of give it the approval up front. If you all are still okay with me doing that, then that's the way we'll continue to operate. If it's anything that I feel that is just out of the question, we had to have water in the building. There's no choices with that, so it had to be done. But I won't do anything without your all's prior approval if it needs prior approval, okay? So I just wanted to let you
Yeah, I just
all
think
know
we
that.
have to be real careful about that and make sure that we're real transparent and that we do all the appropriate things with that. So I think that's good, that as long as we're all communicating about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the ATC Furniture update.
As I told you all, we had hired Ross Tarrant to basically do the furniture review for that facility. As you know, there's 8 classroom spaces in that facility, 1 for each of the program areas, as well as the 2 adult ed/Success Academy classrooms. There's also 6 lab settings that required furniture. Ross Tarrant did a review of that. We had 5 different companies that submitted bids for that furniture, and of course, you all approved the furniture purchases when you approved the BG1, because there was $1.2 million within the BG1 for the purchase of furniture on this. We have settled on 3 different companies. There was 3 different bid packages. 1 was for classroom furniture, 1 was for lounge furniture, which is your furniture in the lobby and within the IT lab, and then there was another one for office furniture. It came in at about $253,000, which was right about where we expected. I told somebody if we get by with $250,000 on furniture, we've done really good, and it's at $253,000. So that order has been placed, and that furniture is supposed to be on site, or it's in the process of being placed, and that furniture will be on site July 1. So no later than July 1, and will be delivered on time and will be set up. The companies bring it in, they set it up, we don't have to touch it. So it's something that, one less thing that Mr. Hall has to worry about. He does have to start worrying about equipment for 4 of his programs, or 5, but just wanted to let you know that furniture purchase, it went well.
Awesome. Jeremy, I'm having computer problems. It flashed up that I was doing update, and then it all went blank, and
That's wrong.
I don't know if you can see, if you want to, see the big big screen.
Yeah, we can move along to
Go ahead, Lonnie.
the bus garage update.
Give me just a second. If it ever says your computer is due for an update, it should give you some time. If not, if you just hit restart, it will update it like within 10 seconds and then restart and you just log back in.
It's gonna have like 11 hours, I think,
Yeah.
to do it.
When you get done tonight, you shut it down, it'll do an update.
Okay.
There it is, it back.
Just being
It just takes a
cantankerous.
little bit of time, a little bit cantankerous.
Yeah, put in your email address.
Okay, I'm back.
We're back, good.
Did you
All
get your
right.
flash and eat? Get
What?
flash and eat? When you walked out of ATC into the school, that big flash and eat?
Yeah. All right, so we're ready for the bus garage update.
Sure. Thank you all again. With the bus garage, I think that the best news is that we really are working toward getting you all to the point of closeout on this particular project here by your meeting next month. Now, to the degree that there's been some progress, you've seen the fencing go up this month. The gate is installed. They're still working a little bit through some of the kinks on the gate operator, but that has all come together. The contractor has been on site a little bit over the last 2 weeks. I wish that I could say that it's all been moving forward, but I think that the weather has sort of impeded a little bit with some of the progress that was made. There's still quite a bit of progress that needs to be made over the next month with getting the site up to specification level. And there is a punch list out there that the contractor is working on, and he does understand that this is a timely issue, and we are working with him to get that and a few final issues in the building done so that we can be back here next month with you guys talking about the project wrapping up. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have on that particular project.
I want you all to know that I've expressed to Peter and to Randy at Ross Torrent that the board is growing impatient with that project that should have been done. There's issues out there. Some of it has been some issues that dealt with, quite frankly, an individual that left the engineering company. There was some problems with some of the wiring issues. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that there has been really a lack of progress on some of the side issues that need to be done. Now, they have started developing, and I've told Peter we have scheduled an open house on June the 4th for that facility, and I want it done. And Peter is going to express to the contractor that if we're sitting here in May, on May the 20th, and we're still having these issues, then we're past the completion date on this project. And I've told them at this point, my recommendation to the board will be at that point, that is that we begin fining them based on their contract for not being able to complete the project in a timely manner. This needs to stop, it needs to be done. And so we've got to get on it, and that's the best way I need to do it. And I've said it on camera now, Peter, so,
Yep.
I mean, we're on the clock. They're on the clock for the May meeting that we need to be at BG4 territory
Correct.
with that project done. There are a couple of change order issues there, but I've expressed those to you before. And some of them are value-added change orders, so we should be responsible for those. Some of them are issues that resulted into just a miss in the design, and we've been talking to the engineering firm about that. Ms. Sheila, you got a comment?
What time on June the 4th?
I know that they met today. I don't know that they've set the date exactly. I think it's 1 to 3. I believe, don't hold me to that, I'll get that to you all, but I'm pretty sure Sean told me today 1 to 3.
Okay, thank you.
And what we're gonna do is we'll have sort of like a little opening ceremony, maybe like a ribbon cutting or something along that line. at about 1 o'clock. And then what we've done is that people want to come in, they want to come in the training room, we'll have some refreshments and they can walk around. We're also going to give people the drive-by option. They can drive up the hill, they can drive through the parking lot, we'll have the garage doors up, they can drive right through the garage and look at it as they go out.
That's nice.
And they can go on off the hill if they don't want to get out and come in.
You missed the cupcakes that way.
They missed the cupcakes. Well, we'll have somebody hand them out a cupcake. If you can get a COVID shot going through a drive-through line, you ought to be able to get a cupcake going through the drive-through line. So we will, we'll have that ready to go. So it's June 4th, so we've got to close that thing out.
Okay. I think there's a pay application, number 14, that needs approval.
Yes, so this pay application is the payment due is for $28,000. A lot of this particular pay application has to do with the fence and the gate, the material and the labor to install. And then there was some site work that was done. I was up on the hill earlier today with Mr. Saylor, and they did get a lot of the riprap installed, which is also work that did get completed. This pay application has been reviewed. And just so you know, there is still $125,100 left in the contract to ensure that the work on the site gets taken care of.
And I will tell you this, the work that is done, it's quality work. They do quality work. It's just a matter that it's been delayed to the point that,
But this pay application includes the fencing and the gate that's not operational?
The wiring is the only thing that is still outstanding, but the material and the labor to install the fence has been, and there is contingency that is being, I'm sorry, not contingency, retainage on the balance that will well cover taking care of the wiring on the gate itself.
the gate is operational, Ms. Isford, and it is working based on it being electrified the way it's supposed to. We do not have the control in the garage the way we want it, so we're
Correct.
that's part of the electrical part of it, but the gate itself and the fence is installed, and probably that company does need payment for that fencing. But there's still a big retainage out there. As
There
Andrew
is.
said, there's
On every single item, there's 5%.
$125,000 left out there if it's not completed. So I feel confident in recommending that we pay this pay app.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve pay application number 14 for work that's already been done? Tammy Harding makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Brian Covey makes a second. At this time, I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're up to the high school Phase 7 renovation project. Go, Peter.
Here you go, Peter, you break the news. I'm leaving it to you.
Go, Peter.
Well, yeah, so the good news is that all of the high school Phase 7 documents got uploaded to Lynn Imaging today. So we got the approval to go out to bid from KDE. I'm not even sure, I guess it was just earlier this week. And Kenny Davis with Codell was able to get his input together really quickly. And Jonathan in my office this afternoon was able to upload to Lynn's the drawing set and volume 2 of the specifications. So my understanding, I haven't had a discussion with Kenny since Monday, but he's thinking that this will bid sometime around May 12th or 13th.
May 13 is what he
Yeah.
had put today. May 5th is the pre-bid meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we meet on the 20th, and they'll have a recommendation for you all on the bid packages.
Correct.
It'll be just like last time. It's a construction manager project. You'll have about 17
Mm-hmm.
bid packages that you'll have to weed. Of course, they'll do the weeding through it. They'll do all the work for you. They're going to give you their recommendation, but because we're going to construction June 15th.
That's the plan.
That's
Roll
Very
on.
exciting.
I saw that the bleachers were in.
Yeah.
Looks really good.
So that's really the update on that project, and I gave you all the timeline last week that baseball, softball starts June 15th. There'll be some work in the high school gymnasium during fall break. As soon as football season's over, we're hoping to move one of our final home games to an away game, so around October 15th. Work will begin on the football stadium, track, tennis, for your new athletic complex there. And then, as soon as school's out in May, the high school project will take place, and they've got about 9 to 10 weeks to finish it in time for the school year to start next August. But everything should be completed by August of 22, yeah. We wait till August of 23, I won't be here. We better get it done before that. So it's exciting. I'm telling you what, we've been waiting for these facilities for a long time. It was the promise when we began this road
It's been a
about
long
4
road.
years ago. Been a long
Been a long
road,
road.
but it's there. It's a promise fulfilled by this board. And I'm just thankful that I've been a part of that. So that's it for the update. There are no action items. It'll be in May.
So we're down to the bleacher project.
Well, let me real quick talk to you about the Multivista revision. I did ask them to revise their quote based on the new timeline that I just gave to you, and they have given us a revised quote. I want you all to look at that over the next few days. In terms, it's come down to about $10,000 if you want them to track the progress just like they've done on the ATC. We had talked about this before. There's not a lot of from the ground work up on this. The buildings are pretty simple. I'm going to ask Peter and Kenny to really give us a recommendation on that, their thoughts at the next board meeting. I know it's $10,000. It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but $10,000 will almost pay for the ticket booth, which is one of the alternates on the project. So would you rather have Multivista, or would you rather have the ticket booth, which is a big part of that concourse on the new stadium and stuff? So, you know, we might have to make a hard choice there, and we'll know on the 20th, because then we're going to know what each one of those items are. We're going to know what each alternate's going to cost, and it's going to be like you're going to get to go Christmas shopping in a sense. You'll have to choose what alternates that you'll have to take. Katie, don't like to hear that. Remember I told you that.
I know.
They don't like to hear that, but that's basically what we'll do. We'll have to pick and choose the alternates that we can afford. But I wanted to give that to you just for transparency, that if you all want to continue that, if you feel like that's needed. Now we can go to bleachers, which is
Okay.
exciting too, ain't it?
I know, I've been talking about bleachers. Let's hear it, Peter.
You jumped down, I'm here to present to you all of the pay applications for the bleacher project and all of the BG4s. There were 2 bid packs. KDE did not like Hvac performing all of them under one, so they asked to get bids on the demolition portion of the project. So bid pack 1 has to do with the installation of the bleachers. Bid pack 2 had to do with the demolition and reinstallation of bleachers. So that's what we're doing today. And we have reviewed the pay applications. They do match up with the invoicing and the schedule of values that Hvac provided us, and we do recommend approving those. And I guess those are the first 2. And then we were able to generate BG4s because all of the numbers lined up right. And just so you know, a BG4 is the project closeout document for a KDE project. So I was very happy that we were able to get those together for you all tonight. And I could actually close a project with you, which is a good thing. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Anything, Mr. Sue?
No, they look fantastic, and I don't know if you come through the gym, you saw the bleachers that was relocated out here. We've got just a few seats left to install, which we'll do that as part of a maintenance project to finish those out, but it sort of gave the finishing touch even out here in this central office gym. God, is that not a beautiful facility out there now? I mean, that is fantastic for a building that's been here this long. That place looks like brand new. It's a show place. So We've got payout number 1 and 2 for the bleacher insulation. Guys, that's about $167,000. They're not broke down, but we were having trouble getting them on there so you all could understand what it was. So I had Rebecca split them. So the first one is for the installation, the bleacher insulation, which that was a little bit over $167,000. My recommendation is that we make that payout.
So are we going to do them all in one motion?
No, we'll do each one of them
individual
separate.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. So pay up 1 and 2, do we have a motion for that? Ms. Sheila Samples, and do we have a second? Tammy Hardy. And I'd like to call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And then you want to go ahead and do pay application number 2 for the demo package?
Yeah, it's pay
One
application
and
number
two.
1 and 2 for the demo, and that is $40,000 and a little bit over $600.
Okay. We have a motion for the demo package. Brian and Tammy Hart. And I'd like to call for a vote. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then we have the BG4 for the package number 1. Do we have a motion to approve that? Sheila Samples. And do we have a second? Tammy Hardy. I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And then the BG4 for the bleacher bid project number 2. Brian is making a motion. Do we have a second? Sheila Samples. And I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Sorry, that's kind of full
That's
all at
okay.
once. So sorry.
I just had a question. Does that include the middle school too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they're done.
Yes.
That's all of them.
That's what I thought.
Yep, and the high school was the stadium seating.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And that means, Angie, you've got a couple of BG5s to close out, which shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah, well, I'll need to circulate that BG4 and get towed by signature, but yes.
Yeah,
we'll
once
get that
he
out.
gets the BG4 uploaded, and then we'll close them out. We'll have them closed out, guys, by June. We've closed out, all the other projects have closed out. Estill Springs is closed, the roof project's closed, the land project, or land purchase is closed. This one will be closed, so all we're left with is the bus garage and the ATC. We're hoping to close the bus garage by June 30th, is our plan right now, and that means the ATC. And I think it's Kenny's and Jeremy's thought process that they want to close that one probably by October, is the way they're sounding, how they want to go about that. So it's good to get them closed out and get them off the books.
Mr. Saylor and I met on Monday to get our agenda together, and we talked about this, so we're ready to move on.
Yep.
Sounds good. And I think the last thing on our facilities construction updates is the air quality upgrades. And first we have West Irvine Elementary.
Yes, and we are looking for approval of the construction documents. Both these projects are relatively small, and we provided, I think, all of the documents that you would need to review the projects. The project at West Irvine includes repairing some makeup air units, as well as providing some bioionization filters and working on filters on the existing Hvac equipment there that will really improve the indoor air quality of the school. And I think, I'm not sure what all I've provided to you guys, but I think.
Well, we met today, and of course, the alternate from Cary.
That is correct. So we're going to be providing an alternate to replace the filter carriers, I believe, and in the 59 units as well.
What happened on that, we had a meeting today, and basically at that point, I asked Cary, is there anything else you would have done in this project that would have just been what needed to be done? This is ESSER money. This is the $3.7 million. We're not talking about ESSER 3 here. This is ESSER 2. We'll give you an update on that here in a minute. But she did suggest that if we change those filter carriers, we could go from a 1-inch to a 2-inch filter, which would give us the ability to have more air filtration. Probably and truthfully, when West Irvine was done, I doubt very seriously it was designed to be done the way it is, the way those filters was placed in those.
It sounds like maybe they were taking a little bit of a shortcut, I don't know.
They took a shortcut. I believe that they took a shortcut, and we wanted to make sure that we've done that. Well, here we are with construction documents for you today, so we can go to bid. We got a pre-bid meeting next week or 2 weeks from now.
It will shift with the alternate. We're
And it's gonna-
get some information.
It will shift a little bit, but I felt like it was better to shift a couple weeks and get it done right and get an alternate in there. So the money is there. I think you'd want it done right. And here's the one big thing. We also addressed those few minor plumbing issues. As you all know, at West Irvine, we've had from the day the building was built, you will have situations where
Sewer.
you have the sewer smell. You have that backup smell. That's been addressed. It's been addressed. Matter of fact, they went above and beyond. Not only did they move the pipes up top that allows the exhaust for the sewer system, but they're also installing devices within the sink traps. It's going to allow that backflow not to come back. So
Will you just, like, when COVID happened and we got this money, this was one of the charges that they had given us, was to install air purification systems, correct?
yes, and you'll see the ESSER2 budget here in a minute. One was for learning loss. One was for air quality. There was also technology was part of that as well, and also social, emotional, and student health was the fourth one. Those was 4 big major areas that they said, this is how we want you to spend your money. And so this is all out of ESSER money. It's not coming out of any of your construction projects, anything like that. So my recommendation is that we approve those construction documents, and Peter will, of course, will have to amend it to include the alternate, but that was the cleanest way we felt to get that in there. And just delay a couple days, it'll be up and running 100% by the start of next school year.
Correct.
So you want to do approval for West Irvine Elementary first?
Yes, with the alternate one.
With alternate one. So do we have an approval for that? Sheila, I mean a motion, not an approval. Sheila Samples and Brian Copey. And I'd like to call for a vote. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then we have the Estill County District-wide air purification HVAC upgrades.
Yeah, so this is about providing bioionization filters for the district throughout four facilities, including the high school, the middle school, Estill Springs, and West Irvine. And I believe there are 175 units that are going in. And these construction documents we're able to just outline this with sort of verbiage in the specifications for what needs to be bid on bid day. So there are no drawings for this particular project, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have about this one.
And Peter, this is an individual bipolar ionization unit that goes on each individual unit that goes to each classroom.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, but it's effective.
So how does that exactly work, Peter? I mean, is it like shrink raise? It sounds all technical, so.
Well, it's probably technical to the point that I would need Carrie here to explain how it
Okay.
works. But each unit in the building, in the classroom, will receive a filter that is added to it that will manage the particulates that we're concerned about. And they are very popular. We installed one in our office last year, and that's one of the reasons we knew, that the estimates that were given to the district for this were right in line. So what they need it to be.
It creates a charge, doesn't it, Peter?
It does.
That helps remove, once it attaches to those particles,
Yeah.
it
There's
helps
a
pull
lot
it
of
out.
medical practices that are using these now,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of hospitals. and-
We installed
Yeah.
them on each of our nurses' stations right now because we knew coming in, that's where if kids were sick, they were coming to the nurses' station. So we've already installed several. We have several units at South Irvine that just, we needed to install ourselves. So, I mean, we've even set aside a pocket of money at the district level to address South Irvine separately from this, but
Right.
this includes every classroom in the district, so I'm excited about these. I told them today, I'm as excited about this as I am any of the other projects because we know that if we can make our buildings healthier, then that's going to increase student attendance, and having students back in the classroom is very important after what we went through for the last 12 months. So this is really a great step, and all this work will be done by the start of school. So my recommendation is to approve the district bipolar ionization units, the air purification systems.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Shayla Samples. Do we have a second? Carrie Smallwood. Like to call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us down to the action items. And first of all, we have White House Clinic. We have Miss Stephanie that's been waiting patiently for her turn. So,
Thank you, Peter, for your time this afternoon.
Miss Stephanie's here to talk about our mobile oral health program.
We're actually in the process of starting our own construction project, so, I was like, oh, under budget and ahead of schedule.
If you need an architect, we've got a recommendation for you.
Well, thank you all so much.
Thanks, Peter. Be careful on the road.
See, Peter, thanks.
Hopefully this time next year, I'm starting the same thing. So I had emailed Mr. Saylor last week. We are in the process of submitting a grant application for a school-based expansion opportunity. And because we're in 5 counties with 6 school districts, the funding opportunity is really only for $200,000. It didn't really afford us the opportunity to come into a district and do a full-blown school health program. But when we started looking at, oh, sorry, I didn't realize he turned it off. Oh, that's okay, thank you. So when we started looking at this opportunity, and started looking at the needs of all 5 counties together, one of the things that really struck us is the oral health need in these communities, and it's really universal. And one of the things, in looking at our own practice, Dr. Knopp at our Irvine Clinic is busy as any dentist that we have in the organization, but her schedule really replicates what we see across our communities, which is that the need and the demand for oral health services really exceeds capacity. One of the things that really struck us is that 47% of kids with Medicaid don't see a dentist. They don't use that oral health benefit at all. And one of the reasons that we know for that is that finding access to a dentist is really challenging. And, I'm a mom of 3 kids myself, and, it's hard enough to keep them healthy and out of the doctor, and then to try to add, dental visits on top of that, it's really difficult. So what we had requested the letter to support our application is for the purchase of a mobile dental bus. It would have 2 operatories, and instead of just doing the preventative work, which happens with a lot of the mobile buses that come in from out of state, this bus would actually be able to do treatment as well. And so our hope is that if it's funded, we would be able, to maybe be in Estill County on Monday and Jackson County on Tuesday and Garrett County on Wednesday, but that we would be able to work with districts to provide consistent access to dental services for students.
And that's pretty much in the letter that you all have seen, and just wanted to give you guys an opportunity if you had any questions for her at this time. Now's a good time to do that.
What would be the length of the grant, Tom?
It's a 2-year grant. And so what we're estimating is that in the first year, probably 150 of that $200,000 would cover the purchase of the bus. And for us, that's really the rate limiting factor. You know, we could hire a dentist and, you know, you can break even on, you know, covering supplies and salaries and all of that stuff with, you know, reimbursement, but being able to buy that bus and pay for the maintenance and upkeep of it really is why the grant is pretty essential for us. So even if after the 2 years they don't continue it, we would still be able to continue the service because we've got the bus at that point.
I have a question for you. Stephanie, I do have a question for you. I know that one thing that whenever you start in situations like this, I understand if a student does not have a provider already, of course, this is very much something that is beneficial to them. But if we do have students that already have a provider, would those students be seen and then referred to their dentist for further follow-up? Because we want to make sure that we don't break the relationships that they currently have with their current provider, especially, you know, if they're here in the county or wherever they may be. You know, I understand that, you know, you're probably going to do checkups and things like that, and then those that don't have insurance and need help, I'm sure that you're going to help those students and those families, and then there would be a referral process to refer them to their own home dentist if they already have one.
So that's one of the things that's a little bit different about this is because this bus allows the treatment to happen as well. So if somebody had a dentist, we would just say, keep going to your dentist. You know, for instance, you know, my kids are in school in Madison County, and when I get those forms, I just say, we got a dentist, thanks. And then my kids, you know, don't participate in that. So if somebody had a dentist, they had a good relationship, we would want them to stay with that dentist. But it's those 47% of kids that are not seeing the dentist for whatever reason. Either they can't find access, their parent or guardian isn't able to take them. Those are the kids that we would really want to target.
So this is like a UK dental bus that comes to schools, and they can extract and all that good things right there on site.
Yes.
That's basically what it is, okay.
And so you all would actually bill their Medicaid. And
Correct.
what if we have students that for some reason their parents have fallen out of the system and they lost their insurance and they don't have any? Would you still see that child that's uninsured, or would that child be referred to try to get them signed back up for services, or how does that work?
So what we're doing in Berea currently, we are currently the school health provider for Berea Community Schools. And so we do medical, dental, and behavioral health services for them. And so dental is a little bit different than just having the nurse that's in the school all the time. Because you know that you're coming, we go through in advance and say, you know, kid number A doesn't have insurance. Let's reach out to his family proactively to either see if we can help them get re-enrolled in Medicaid, or if not, help get them signed up for our sliding fee program.
Perfect. Does anybody have any other questions? Do you know, like, would it be like one time a week, or it would be like once a month? I mean, I guess that would depend on the need and the volume.
And the number of districts that confirm. So one of the things, there are a couple of districts in our service area that are already under contract. And so, you know, if this grant is awarded, it would start September 1st of 2021. Now, granted, it would take us time to get the van purchased and, you know, the new dentist. So I couldn't imagine us delivering services before like the spring semester of the next academic year. And so, you know, that schedule is going to vary. You know, if 3 of 5 counties decide to participate in the next academic year because they didn't have a relationship, we might be there more frequently. But then if we had new schools come on, that frequency would vary. And we also would expect to see some variance in frequency. For instance, if there were a lot of kids using it in Estill County, but not as many kids using it in Garrett County, then we might just want to make sure that we were here more often.
Anybody have any other questions?
Guys, I'm glad that Stephanie came because she answered questions I could never answer for you guys. And I think based on what we've heard here today, I think it's a good opportunity for our kids that currently do not have a provider, especially if we'll have their help to follow through, maybe to even gain insurance for some that's dropped out of the system. And my understanding, based on her comments, was if somebody doesn't have insurance, we're going to treat them anyway. So if that's the case, I strongly recommend that we participate in the grant opportunity and see what happens, and wish them good luck.
They're only awarding 25 grants out of this cycle. And I know of at least 4 other health centers in Kentucky that are writing grants, and I think that there might be more. So we know the competition's going to be pretty stiff, but we also know that oral health is an area in Kentucky that, the need is just so clear. So we're hoping that
Is
that'll.
this federal?
It is. Mm-hmm. It's HRSA dollars.
Reach back out to me. We may be able to make some calls.
Will do.
Okay.
One of the things we say in healthcare, if you have poor oral health, typically your overall health is poor.
It's true. So you all have my recommendation.
So, do you want to go ahead and vote, or do you want to do?
Each one of these would require separate action,
Okay.
so.
So, do you all have any further discussion with this,
I
or?
have to excuse myself from this vote because I have a conflict of interest.
Okay. That's fine. Do you want to leave the room, or do?
I'll leave the room.
Well, I think he's okay because it's not, he's got a job no matter what, it's not the best. You get a job at this.
So, I'd like to have a motion at this time. Carrie Smallwood makes a motion. Do we have a second? Tammy Hardy. So, I'd like to call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And Rebecca, that'll be 4-0 with 1 abstaining.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad you were able to be with us.
And Mr. Hall, we're going to talk to you in terms of professional students. We'll be glad to give them jobs.
I love that.
So next on our agenda is the CARES funding budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy, if you can pull up that budget, and as Ms. Isford steps out, we'll sort of start walking through this budget. Guys, as you know, CARES Act 2 passed right before President Trump left office. It was almost a little less than $1 trillion total. And out of that, of course, there was money that came to the states. This money has been distributed based on our Title I funding formula, and the total budget for CARES 2 was a little bit over $3.7 million. And I told you all I would share this budget with you. We started meeting 6 weeks ago about this and started having conversations around, okay, when we first got this, I said, how in the world are we going to spend $3.7 million? But then you get to looking at what has came about because of COVID and the needs that the district has because of COVID. And it pretty much came to, in plain view really quick, that we can spend this money and we still didn't meet all the needs that we felt like that we had. You'll notice that we've got up here, we've got FY22, which is this coming year. We also budgeted money for FY23, and CARES 2 money has to be spent by September 30th of FY23. So it would start out in the FY24 school year, but the bottom line, it's never going to start out there because we're going to spend the money in 23. So we've got another whole list of items out here in the far right-hand column that's not even included in this budget. But as Ms. Isford was telling us earlier, the focus, what was the focus of this? Okay, the first focus was summer school and ESS services to try to help students regain loss of knowledge that has taken place due to the fact of remote learning and due to the fact that not all students have been on in person. So summer school is one of the major things that they looked at, and we've tried to put together a summer school that basically is right now based on about 30 teachers, 12 instructional assistants. We'll have to have a couple of office clerks there's going to be papers to run off. There's going to be people that's got to be met and greeted at the door. We'll have to have also there'll be supplies and materials that we will need for summer school, and we've already started purchasing those materials, and we're going to be able to transport kids. The thing that has always been an issue with any type of ESS program is transporting kids, because the kids that need to be there often do not have transportation. So this includes 10 bus drivers, along with monitors on each bus, because if we're going to have preschool, kindergarten, first and second graders, you have a policy that says that we have to hand those kids, it's hand to hand getting off the bus. So we've got to have monitors on those buses. And then, of course, we can pay back the mileage or the use of the buses. And we tried to come up with an estimate of what that would cost, and you can see that we budgeted $392,000 for FY22 and also $392,000 for FY23. Now, what will happen is that if we see in FY22 it takes $450,000, that's just going to reduce the money that we've had budgeted for FY23. And then, of course, I'll tell you about CARES 3 here in a minute that will pick up the slack for that more than enough if we have to do that. But right now, we're planning on summer school for the next 2 summers. Move on down to instructional technology, Jeremy. As you know, technology has been a huge factor. I mean, without technology and technology upgrades that this system has done in the last 5 years. Thank God that we started doing that 5 years ago with the one-to-one devices and all the things that we done. And I give Jeremy a lot of credit. You know, Jeremy was probably my 3rd hire when I got here, and you're number 1 now, right? 3rd to be hired, number 1 now. I rub his bald head every once in a while to make him feel good. But they have done a fantastic job getting our networks upgraded. Think about the fact that none of our students had one-to-one devices. We now have one-to-one devices grades 7 through 12. Next year, our goal is to have one-to-one devices grades 3 through 12. The following year in FY23, there's money in this budget to go one-to-one devices 1 through 12. And even in the kindergarten, those computers will be purchased for kindergartners within their kindergarten year. And you say, well, those kids are too young, they don't understand computers. Guys, I'm telling you, they know more about computers than you do.
They know more than we know.
And so I'm just letting you know, the one-to-one devices are not leaving. Chromebooks now have increased the length of support for those devices. So basically what's going to happen when a student comes into kindergarten, they're going to get a device that they're going to keep till 6th grade. When they get to 7th grade, they'll get a new device, and that will last them all the way through high school. So every student will get 2 different computers during their lifespan. And it'll take a while to get this all on a schedule. You know, it'll be 3 or 4 years from now before we get on that schedule. But that means the district every year is going to spend about $80,000 for 2 sets of computers, and that's the $125,000 that you have in your budget right now for one-to-one devices. So it's already in place in the budget in the years to come, as long as the board continues to fund that. So there's not only funding in here for one-to-one devices. A lot of our teacher devices have gotten old over time. We have some teacher computers that's over 10 years old. They should be on a replacement schedule of about 3 years. Most districts can't afford that, but you don't need to be at 10. You can probably get by at 6, but not 10. So we're trying to address that. We're trying to address some infrastructure as well. And of course, Jeremy still has his CATS budget, which is about $100,000, but it all goes to that. But you can see what we have spent on technology is about $376,000 next year and $304,000 the following year. Project Lead the Way is materials for the career tech field, and that's the Project Lead the Way program. That's your engineering program. And we have already purchased that material. That material is going out. That $170,000 has already really been spent. And of course, along with the fact that we'll be announcing here in just a few days, Mr. Hall and I, along with Mr. Orr and Teresa Dawes, has been working really hard. We're going to be announcing some corporate partners for our area technology center. Our hope is right now, we believe that every program area will have a yearly sponsor that is going to help support the instructional materials. And for that, we've done a lot of that work ahead of time before Mr. Hall was hired. But we're expecting big things, and our community and our corporate community has stepped up, and it's been really unreal what they've done. You guys are going to be absolutely floored by some of the investment that's being made by our local businesses in our community. And as you all know, Markham Wallace, Citizens Guarantee, and Carhartt was our three major corporate entities here in Estill County that was there from day one. And we believe that we have obtained somebody for engineering. We believe we've also obtained somebody for the electrical program, and we're in negotiations on the diesel mechanic program. So each one of those programs will have a sponsor, and they'll be recognized with signage within those labs in that area. But you can see what we've spent there, $170,000. Health services. We need to continue to pay for our middle school nurse and our CNA at South Irvine. This means not only are we going to be able to do it for the next 2 years, I believe with the new funding, I believe that the ESSER 3 ends in 24, or does it end in September of 24, right? Which is in the FY 25 school year. We'll be able to fund those nurses for the next 3 years, and it won't cost the board anything in order to do that. And we've got 2 quality people that we've hired on that, and that gives them some peace of mind too about employment moving forward. We did put $25,000 worth of PPE. We do believe that we will still be wearing masks when we go back to school in August. But a lot of the guidelines are being relaxed as we move forward. Of course, we all know if there's something happen, there's a new variant, there's a surge, all those things can come back. But, we feel like we need to have some money there for PPE. So that's health of our students. I think the next one can also be considered health of our students as well when you get to looking at maintenance of our facilities. There are your 2 projects for West Irvine and the district that you just approved. $353,000 at West Irvine. If the change order not change order, but if we do accept the alternate on that project, we'll have to rebudget some, Angie, because it will add about $45,000 to the West Irvine project. It will go to right at $400,000. But I believe that's the right thing to do on that filtration system. There's no need to get this close and be $50,000 away from having a facility 100% complete and done and not do it. So we'll readjust this budget and we'll have the ability to do that. But also, I need your approval tonight so we can get it in by May 15th, which is before the next meeting. The district project you approved is $193,000, and we believe that's about where it will come in. And there's also at South Irvine $15,000 that's been allocated there. We told you we was going to do that one as a district project, as a maintenance project. Also, the custodial equipment in our district, trying to upgrade, we're going to have to be able to clean our facilities and clean them better. Well, we've got equipment in this district that's 20 years old. So we're replacing some of that equipment over the next 2 years. And we're also buying the equipment for the new technology center, which in this budget, it said you can spend this money on area technology centers. And I think there's no other better way than to spend it on the equipment that you're going to need to clean that facility. You got to have a clean facility. So as you can see there, we've spent about 600 and looks like, what is that, 86? Having a little bit hard time seeing it, but it's about $686,000 there. And then the following year, it's about 37 to finish out replacing all of the old, out-of-date equipment. Well, and that will give us the ability, as you all know, we've been completely renovating the maintenance facility at Estill Springs. And that will give us, if we have a floor scrubber goes down, then we're going to have a spare floor scrubber that will be there that, gives us a place to keep everything. Things get lost when you don't have the right storage facilities and stuff, and that's going to address that issue. Family support is the last big piece of the puzzle on CARES Act funding. And we have really done a lot of intensive work looking at what are our biggest needs. And we felt like that because we've got 200 students, guys, at South Irvine that has a lot of different needs. Now, that's not including the 50 or 60 4-year-olds that decide not to come to preschool. There's a lot of parents that do not send 4-year-olds to preschool. So there is a lot of family needs at that area. Plus, you've got an elementary school now that's at about 105% of capacity at Estill Springs. It is overcrowded as it is. So that counselor already has their hands full. So we really felt like there's a need to have a counselor at South Irvine full-time dealing with family issues. And then the other thing we looked at, we addressed the mental aspect when we hired an LPC 2 years ago. Now the one piece that's missing, and guys, I'm telling you, it is no reflection on DCBS. I would hate to think that I had to do that job every day. But there is so much going on that they cannot sometimes handle some of these things that we feel like that maybe they should be handling, because a lot of times they can't take every neglect thing that maybe this family doesn't have water in their household, not had water in their household, or they don't have electricity, or the house is not clean. Well, why is it not clean? It's because they don't have the basic everyday needs. So we really feel that a social worker would go a long way to addressing some of those needs, because once we make the call to DCBS and they tell us, okay, they're not going to substantiate a claim on this particular item, they're not telling you that there's not an issue. They're just telling us that based on their resources, that's something they can't look into. Once they tell us that they can't look into it, then our social worker can go into that place and go into that home and deal with that family. And we're not going in there to judge them. We're not going in there to cast any stones. We're going in there to help the kids and to help that family. And they'll work very closely with your family resource center and youth service centers to make sure that that happens. And I believe that is a job that we definitely need. Now, if you approve this budget, those are 2 new jobs that we'll end up posting here this afternoon. And we're also going to put some money into family needs in terms of welfare and the backpack program, because right now food insecurity is huge and even bigger after the flooding that took place. Food insecurity is a huge thing here. We had a meeting this week. I won't name the entities that we had a meeting with, but we've had on the food bank end of it outside help that basically has not followed through with what they told us that they would do. And they reached back out to us. They want to try to mend those fences. And we told them it's on you to mend them, because they need to mend those fences with our food bank that's been at Ravenna for years. They need to mend those fences.
And they also have the one out here, the outreach, the outreach does not have a building now.
No.
None,
No.
they're putting it out the back of the truck.
And my understanding is that they're gonna be under totally new people that's gonna be supervising that program.
Yes.
But honestly, our backpack program fell apart. It fell apart because of some of the problems that with the churches, with donations, with all those things. So we're gonna put some money into it to start with, but we basically had a meeting this week and said, guys, you need to fix this. We'll work with anybody, but you need to fix this. You need to heal the relationships. You need to do away with all this mistrust that's out there right now around these programs. You fix it, we'll be there to help you. So I did put some money into that. We may not have to have any of that money there, but I put it there in case we do. Right now, we had $10,000 budgeted in CARES Act 1. And what we've done for the remainder of the spring is we started a voucher program that our families that was on the backpack program, they're getting a voucher that they can take to Save a Lot, and they can get that much groceries on that particular voucher. So we used that money to do that. So we felt like that was a very important part of it. The last part of this budget is that they do allow you to do some prior year expenses. And in order to help the budget and help the general fund, we've looked at this, that we need to go ahead and reimburse the district for our bus purchases and our property insurance, which is allowable under the law. So that allows us to reimburse the district for $395,000. And I know we were worried about, you approved the 1% raise back in January. Now we don't have to worry about paying for that 1% raise, it's there. And, my greatest fear was moving forward, at some point in time, we'd have to raise taxes. I'm telling you, we won't have to raise taxes this year. We won't have to raise taxes next year. And if the money is spent right, and Angie and the new superintendent and the new board, you won't have to raise taxes 3 years from now. You'll be able to pretty much keep the tax rate as it is because you've got this money. There's no need to raise taxes on the local public when you've got this money that will cover the expenses that you need to. So our property insurance, we did have a meeting this morning. I met with Dave Kendrick. We're rebidding our property insurance because of all the claims that's happened in all the school districts across the state. We've been with Liberty Mutual. They're probably the biggest insurer of school districts in the nation. They've taken a lot of losses, and because of that, insurance has automatically went up. So we're going to advertise for bids. I'll be bringing you advertisement for bids from Liberty and from Wright Insurance, and we'll make a decision on that. Our property insurance has been about $220,000. It's going to go to about $260,000. I just felt like I wasn't going to accept a $40,000 increase without taking it to bid and getting you all the best price. That's what we're paid to do, to be good stewards of our money. So if you all approve this budget as it is, meeting the 4 major categories that they asked you to do in CARES 2, then we would spend $2.2 million this coming year. We would spend $1.4 million, or almost $1.5 million. That's $3,756,000. Now notice, we've already got another $1,115,000 out there identified for the following year. So it doesn't meet all the needs that we feel like, but here's the good news. ESSER 3, we got our funding yesterday, or our allocation yesterday, and this school district is going to get $8.4 million in addition to what we already have. So that's going to allow you to start addressing, you're going to be able to think about, we need to really explore. You've got an elementary school down here that's at 105% of its capacity. That may give you the avenue that you need to look at additional classroom space in that school. And if we take the gymnasium part of that school and convert it into classroom space, it may allow us to renovate Old Irvine. We're going to explore that and keep Old Irvine Gym, and that would be the gym of that school, but we would convert the gym space into classroom space. We're going to see if that will fly. Angie was on a meeting today, and they said one of the issues was space, because you still have the social distancing aspects. They're not too happy right now when you got a school that's over 100% capacity. So that's a possibility. You've got South Irvine that, when I first got here, part of the project at South Irvine was to replace all the windows in the old section of that building. The only way you get a window open at South Irvine is go over there and take a brick and throw it through one of them because they won't open. So you can't get fresh air from the outside. So it's a possibility that we could go back and do something with the windows at South Irvine. And you say, well, why would you spend money over there? Guys, you still owe 17 years on a bond at South Irvine. You're not going, no KDE is going to frown on you wholeheartedly when you got 17 years on a bond and you're going to close that school. Not going to happen. So you might as
Did a lot of
well.
work to that school, though. I mean,
That's
that
exactly
school's in
right.
good shape.
If you
It's
could replace,
clean.
if you could replace windows over there, that school is completely redone.
It wouldn't be like the rest of them that's in here.
I mean, it's brought up to a 2,000 building. I mean, so,
And it's clean as a penny.
it's clean as a penny. They've done a fantastic job over there. Phil's done a great job as a custodian over there, and he's had help this year because we were able to hire some help with, ESSER 1 funds. So there's some avenues out there by which we may be able to do some of these things, and we're not going to spend basically general fund money or taxpayer money in a sense of local taxes. We would be spending ESSER 3 money in order to do those things. So I don't know if y'all have any questions about this, but I felt like we needed to go through that budget because I do need your approval on it because Angie and I have to submit this by May 15th. And if you approve this, know that you created 2 new jobs. You created the social worker and you created the South Irvine counselor's job.
I'm sorry, that was my question about the social worker. So after these 2 years, with the CARES Act paying for the social worker, are we just gonna say, okay, the CARES Act money's gone, you need to go back to your,
Well, with ESSER 3, you'll be able to fund it for another year and a half. So
Okay.
basically, you'll fund it for the next 3.5 years.
okay,
And what we would have to do with both of those people is we'd have to say, now listen, we know that we're going to be able to fund this for the next 3 years. Now, as you all are sitting here as a board, remember, we've got new billing for Medicaid now that we can bill for, that we're starting to get into that. We're going to do our first billing. I think, Angie, we sort of delayed the first time because we wanted to make sure things was right. So you're going to have an opportunity to gain funding there. I'm not saying that we can gain all that funding, but at least maybe for the next 3 years, it can help get us past the COVID time. And then, like I said, somebody would. The next superintendent sitting here will have to make that decision. But what I promise you is this. I will look at whichever individual, and we've already done this with the nurse, the middle school nurse and the South Irvine CNA. They both know that they're being paid for with CARES money. And when that money's gone, there's no guarantee that the board has the funding in order to do that. Because in reality, if we get past this, and let's say in FY '24, you all decided to take a 4% increase with tax rate, you're only talking about $80,000 to $90,000. That might pay for 2 of the 4 positions, but it ain't gonna pay for all 4 of them. So you'll have some decisions to make. And also what's gonna happen, if we're gonna pay for prior year expenses, you're gonna be able to, and we're gonna build a little bit of a contingency over the next couple years. You know, when I got here, it was 1.8. I mean, we could be sitting here with a contingency over 2.5 maybe by the time the next 2 years is over with. So you're gonna have some contingency money there to deal with. But I also think if we've got that, we need to look at what are the other things that we need to do from a facility standpoint.
We may need to get our committee back together to look at what the district needs were.
Yeah, I've been checking off, and I'm gonna bring that to you all next time. I've got it ready for you to bring you the facility plan and show you everything that's been crossed off that thing. There's not a lot of stuff left on there. You've got a parking lot at West Irvine. You've got the renovation at Estill Springs, it's been on there in terms of additional classroom space and parking. Those are the two major things. That's the only two things that's left. Middle school, you're gonna have to build a new middle school in this district
Old Urban
sometime
High School was on that too.
in 2030. What was that?
I think we had Old Urban High School.
Old Urban High was on there as either, it would be part of the Estill Springs renovation, or, as we know, it could be torn down, you know? And we've exhausted every effort, and we've kept Old Urban, we've kept all the alumni up to date on that, and
We've even had meetings with the alumni.
several times. And I mean, they have told me point blank that if we can't do something to save it, they definitely don't want to see it rot down and fall down and be an eyesore for the community.
But it's a beautiful building, and we've always wanted
Yeah.
to do something with it.
And probably the part that we can legitly save would be the gymnasium and turn it into a community center, and I've been working with local government on that. And,
We've had multiple meetings about this.
multiple,
Just
so-
multiple. trying
but
to-
this may be the funding source that we didn't have.
I had a question about the computers, and Jeremy can address that. I know, we've really expanded that since I've been on the board. And one of the questions that always comes up every year is, when the student graduates, do they get to keep that computer?
One of the issues we had with last year's seniors, there was a little bit of negativity in the community that we didn't let those students have those, but that was never offered to them. Mr. Setter and I have not met about it for this coming year. One of the things that will allow us to eventually get to that point is these have a lifespan of around 6 years. And so we can continue using them, but just like any other piece of technology, they do get older. And with what we do, we're trying to stay ahead of that curve. That is a discussion that he and I was actually going to have about for this year's seniors and moving forward. I don't have an answer for you yet on that, but we will have that discussion within the next day or two to decide.
Yeah.
Surplus there.
Yeah, it was part of the lease agreement. These computers that seniors have right now was part of a lease agreement
That
to
comes up
purchase
every
those.
time.
They come off the lease this year.
We would have to surplus them like at the May board meeting in order for them, so that's why he said it's got to be in the next few days, because we'd have to surplus them and then make a determination on what
But as
their
of right
worth is.
now, those computers are district property.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
And also,
And we just
there-
need to make that clear
as
to
part
everyone.
of the, as per district policy, policy does state that we have the right to sell or give district technology to students without having to, I want to say we don't have to surplus it, or we have to actually bring it to the board that we're doing that,
It's in the district policy
but it is
that
in the
was
district
approved.
policy that one of our,
Yeah,
That might
and
not marry up with law, I mean, I don't know if somebody.
what we'll do, Sean, is we'll make sure that we need to forward that policy to Sean and let him and Jonathan review that to make sure that we're kosher on that.
and
Well,
that's-
I think
that's also
what-
a
Comes up
state
every
policy.
time.
That is not just a district policy, that is a
The
KRS.
computer.
Yeah, I'm not sure that state policies all the time will measure up or are in line with board policy, because sometimes they just don't marry those.
And it's probably fine, but we just.
That's come up before, and that's why I'm saying we need to clarify
Well,
that
here's
so
what
people
happened.
know.
When we bought these computers 3 years ago, that's our seniors right now. Our juniors at that time did not have computers. They were seniors last year. So we had about 120 additional Chromebooks that we said, if you don't have a device, we're gonna let you use them for this year. But then when they got to the end of the school year, we had several parents that got upset because we wouldn't let those computers go. Well, they weren't even supposed to have them. We made it possible that they could borrow them for the rest of the school year, but then there shouldn't have been no misunderstanding. They were told that up front, but because of the fact that they knew that the sophomores that got those computers was gonna have the ability to do that when they graduated. They felt like, okay, you should make it retroactive for us. Well, we couldn't do that because of the fact that we needed those computers in order to be able to make sure we were able to make it through this year. So technically, we can surplus these computers that right now belong to our seniors, and they can have the opportunity to purchase those computers. And we'll set the price, or we'll let you all set the price when we bring it to you. But, and I don't have a problem doing that, but what's gonna happen over time, you're gonna have a student that got one of those as a 7th grader, they're gonna get to where they're a senior, that computer's not gonna be worth a whole lot. Plus, it's also gonna lose its support.
Well, I think my point is just, I think we need to make it clear
Yeah.
that that is district property, and when you graduate, that computer is not automatically gonna go to you.
Yeah, and we
Unless we
collected
have-
every one of them
Unless
last
we
year.
have surplus property or something,
Or the policy that.
or there's
he was
policy.
talking about, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay? And then the next thing that I had, just when I came on the board, we had Erica and 2 nurses. And we've been able to grow that health program because we had multiple meetings and discussions about it, and we felt like that our kids needed nursing care while they were here. And I'm so glad and so proud that we've been able to put a nurse in every building now, with Erica being the supervisor over all of that. And I'm really glad to see that we're continuing to budget for that. Obviously,
Yeah,
I'm
it's a need.
passionate about that, and I'm really proud that we are able to do that.
Well, it shows that schools that have a school nurse, not only do they provide health services for those kids, it also helps increase your attendance rate, because that student that comes to the nurse, if there's nothing wrong, then they will go back to class. And then even if there is something wrong, it can be arranged that they can go to the doctor that afternoon, and they can be back in school the next day if they need to be, as long as they're not running temperature or whatever. And I know a lot of people's gonna say, well, you've had nurses in the schools, your kids haven't been in school. Our nurses have worked every day. They've worked every day. They participated in the vaccination clinics for our employees. And honestly, I'll be bringing to you in the staffing policy, we need to increase their hours per day. They're paid 7 hours per day, which means they get there at the bell and leave before the buses. We need them an extra 30 minutes. I'm gonna ask for their pay to be increased 30 minutes on a day. Erica, we've had to pay Erica additional days because of COVID. We paid for it out of CARES money. I'm gonna ask you to add days to her salaries. Well, I'll be bringing that back. This coming month is huge. You've got the district staffing policy you gotta approve. You gotta approve the salary schedule with your 1% raise. That is, if you pass it in the budget that Angie will be bringing to you. So, I mean, there's a lot of huge things that take place in May. We know now we're gonna be accepting bids for the new high school project, but get ready for about a 4-hour meeting. You know, in May, it's gonna be a long meeting, but there's gonna be a lot of good stuff that takes
Maybe we need
place.
to have 2.
We might need to have to,
We may need to have 2.
or at least maybe we need a cupcake break or something, you know, in between. So,
But I just wanted to say that I'm really, really proud that we have a nurse in every school. Not all districts have that.
No.
And
Yeah.
I think they've been a huge asset, especially during
well, and
COVID.
your social emotional health too. I mean, hiring the LPCC, we had 2 fantastic school psychologists. I'd put our 2 school psychologists up against anybody in this state. And now you turn around and we were able to hire a fantastic LPCC. We're addressing mental health needs in our building, and that's one reason we talked about, do we hire another LPCC, or do we need a social worker that's going to go into those homes and work on some of those other issues? We sort of made the decision, social worker right now. And we'll see as things go on, how the state budget goes on. I just said state budget, and we're talking about this budget, but in the state budget, we now have full funding for kindergarten. I don't like the way we got it. I still think 563 stinks. It's a terrible bill. Should have never passed. It sure does nothing for our school district, but out of it, we got full kindergarten funding. But I tell you what, I'd give the full kindergarten funding back right now if 563 wasn't law, because 563 is going to hurt rural school districts. It will hurt them in the long run. And anybody that says it won't is not telling you the truth. So we're gonna get $350,000 additional money for full-day kindergarten, but
All
we
water
sure,
under the bridge now. It's
we
coming.
sure paid the price for it.
It's
Well, I
coming.
hope it's not water under the bridge, because I'm telling you what's gonna happen. You're gonna have a flood in about 2 years. It ain't just gonna be a little creek. It's gonna be a flood. But anyway, that's regardless.
I pulled that up. It's policy 04.8 for refurbished surplus technology. If the district receives a written determination that surplus technology does not meet Kentucky educational technology standards, it may be choose to distribute the refurbished surplus property to students and staff. First priority shall be given to eligible students, second priority shall be given to eligible staff. So I don't know if that answers his question, or if he needs to.
That is current board policy, Sean.
Okay.
Okay.
That was adopted June 20th, 2019.
And that came about because of one-to-one.
Yes, sir, it did.
That's the recommended policy from KDE.
Well, then if that's, I mean, you're probably fine.
Okay.
I just, we've not dealt with that, or at least I haven't dealt with that yet. And so when you talk about getting rid of district property, that always makes, used to the process, the surplus process.
And all of, this was just now taken from the KSBA board, or the KSBA site. This is what is public in the KRS
And it
record.
shouldn't be any problem at all. I mean, if that's coming from KDU,
Good deal.
you should be fine.
We'll make sure.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm pretty confident that's okay.
So, Ms. Esford, if you guys are ready, then I would ask, my recommendation is approve the CARES 2 budget, and probably sometime June or July, we'll be bringing you a CARES 3 budget.
Does anybody have any further comments, or are we ready to call for a motion? Do we have a motion to approve the CARES 2 funding budget as presented tonight? Ms. Sheila Samples makes a motion. I need a second by Ms. Tammy Hardy. And I'd like to call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving right along. SBDM allocation request for the high school and the middle school.
Guys, this is part of your yearly process. Each of our schools received an SBDM allocation with a specified number of teachers. I brought that sheet to you all last time that had the number of teachers that each school got. Well, each of these schools, in order for them to be able to keep their current instructional program in place, needed to make a request. I believe the high school made a request for 1/2 of a position, and they asked for it to be within their music program. And then the middle school made a request for 2 positions, one being music, one being social studies, and that social studies does allow for social studies instruction every day in the 6th grade. We made those changes about 3 years ago when really the middle school of all schools in our district was understaffed by at least 2 or 3 teachers. Their enrollments went down a little bit, but they still have to be able to offer an instructional program. But now that enrollment's going to start coming back. If you remember, we went through that time frame where about 3 years, we saw a reduction in the number of students for about 3 years. Now that's moving to the middle school. So it's going to work through the middle school over the next 3 years, and probably about 4 years from now, you're going to start seeing your high school enrollment go down. You'll see your high school enrollment drop to about 600 students for a period of about 3 years before it will start coming back up. And that's what happens when you have those fluctuations in attendance or in student enrollment like that. So just know that that's going to happen over time, which means you don't need to just rush out and say, well, they don't need all these teachers. That's not necessarily the case. They can't provide their instructional program if they don't have them. So both of those site-based councils have asked for those requests. My recommendation is that you approve the high school and the elementary or the Estill County Middle School request, and you can approve them in one motion. So the motion would be that I'd approve the high school and middle school request for additional instructional staff.
Do they not have a music program besides band at middle school now? They don't have a music class? like Ms. Garrett had.
No, they do, but what happens is if you don't approve these positions, then we're gonna have to notify that music teacher that they're not rehired. You're gonna have to notify that social studies. These are not new positions. These are positions that they currently have, but now their enrollment doesn't justify the number of teachers, Tammy. So we're just saying, we're gonna freeze them where they're at with the number of staff they got. But in order to do that, they've got to ask you to up their request, which is your policy on SBDM allocations. So we can approve those at one time. And that's my recommendation.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Brian and Tammy. Yeah. I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
That's one thing why your board policies are so important, because all this stuff is under your board policy. That's what you got them for. That's why it book's about that thick.
Okay, we have a waiver for KAR 7, 1.125 concerning pupil attendance and virtual school enrollment.
I want you to know that it is the intention of this school district that we return to full-time enrollment for all students. 5 days a week, starting on August 4th. So our expectation is that all students will be attending in person. With the vaccination rollout the way it is, with continued social distancing, and with the improvements that we're seeing with coronavirus, it's not going to go away totally. But, you know, who knows? I don't know what may happen down the road, but that is our intention, that we return to full-time enrollment. With that being said, and that's for all students in grades K through 12, but there are some state attendance regulations that do hinder us in case there are situations where if you have a student that has a verified medical situation, it would require them to be remote. We also want to be cognizant of that. We're not talking about somebody going down to see somebody in the back alleyway and getting an excuse not to come to school. We're talking about kids that have verified medical issues that we know who those kids are. They're already enrolled in our schools. They're already part of our nursing program. We know who they are. There may be some situations where kids have to be on virtual, but we're looking at 98% of our kids in person every day. What this waiver does allow us, if we do have that situation, it allows us to be able to count attendance, and it allows us to count attendance every day on those students. The way the law is written, when you look at KR 7125, it says that students enrolled in a virtual program is basically, they're judged based on the amount of work that they've done. So they enter a virtual program in August, and when you get to May, if they've completed their work, you basically get all the funding for that kid, or you get no funding for that kid, or you get partial funding. But you have no idea. You're carrying that student from August to May, and you don't know if you're going to get funding for them or not. What this waiver does is allow us to now count that kid in attendance every day, which means that there'll have to be somebody at that school or at the district level that that student checks in with of the morning and that student checks in with of the afternoon. And as long as they check in at those two times, they count present for that school day. So then we get funding for that child day in and day out, and we're not having to wait to the end. So just in case for those few kids, if we had 50 kids on virtual, 50 kids on virtual is $200,000. If we have to wait to May to figure out if we're going to get $200,000, that's going to kill us. We're better off to be getting it based on average daily attendance each and every day. That's all that waiver says. We're doing it on just the emergency cases that need to be virtual. But again, I'm letting our public know our expectation is that kids return to school in person on August the 4th, unless you have a really definite, verified medical situation, they should be in school. So I do need approval of that waiver, and that's my recommendation.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the waiver? Ms. Sheila Samples, do we have a second?
I'll say.
Brian Covey, and I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're down to our Data Seam Information Technology Apprentice Program.
We have an opportunity through Data Seam. Data Seam is it's really started out as a program for coal counties that was distressed because of coal. You see it all the time where, matter of fact, right now we have 25 Data Seam computers. They're Mac computers that are at West Irvine. And we're allowed to use those computers during the day, but at night, they're doing cancer research. The University of Louisville, those computers run 24 hours a day. And there's cancer research that's being funneled through those. And as part of the program, if you go through these programs, you get so many computers based on that program. Well, they've come up with an internship program or an apprentice program where we have the ability of a couple of students that possibly could have an opportunity to be trained in computer programming, which means that they could leave, not only, we would be offering them a part-time job for the next 2 years, that they would, what's really a year and a half, it's during this summer, next year, and the following summer, or something like that. There's so much money, it's like $4,000 or $5,000 that we're committing to. And for that $4,000 or $5,000, we're going to get some computers in return for that. But honestly, what you've got is you've got kids on site that can also help with technology. And Jeremy brought this to me. It's an opportunity. Listen, we may not have nobody do it, but it's going to be one of those things. We've opened it up. We're already talking to some juniors that's going to be seniors. We're going to let them apply. If they are, the district would hire them, you know, to work and do those things, but they would also be helping the district, and you're going to get computers in turn. Jeremy would be like a mentor to one of them. He's going to get so many computers for helping. So in reality, for that $5,000, you're going to get computers worth a lot more than that in the long run. And it's a great program. It's not an easy program. So it doesn't need to be somebody says, well, I want my kid to have a job, this is for them. Well, just know it's got to be their love. It's got to be something they want to do. It's got to be something they want to be a part of. We're going to give them the opportunity if they want to. Well, I'm asking you to give them the opportunity because I can't spend the $5,000 without your approval. But I think it's a good program, and I think it could have some benefits for us and for the district, and it could get a kid started into an IT career down the road that could be very lucrative for them. Jeremy, miss anything?
No, it's got a lot of on-the-job training. It'd basically be like the technology department has a co-op student, if you will, but it's not just a straight co-op position. They would actually have to go to some data seam trainings where they would actually attempt, they do not have to pass. I had to pass it, but they do not. But they have to attempt actually getting a industry certification for an Apple, I can't even remember what the Apple Certified Support Specialist 14.0, or I can't remember the acronym there. But they actually have to attempt that test, which is, outside of us, is an actual true industry certification, which also coincides with, graduation requirement for being a college and career ready, sorry. So it's this is also, it actually starts at a sophomore level. We're trying to find those up and coming sophomores so that they can start it in their junior year, take some classes, and then finish in their senior year. But it also requires them doing above and beyond their normal schoolwork. There is a lot of self-study. So that's why Mr. Saylor said this is not an easy program. And it's not going to be like a class of students. It's going to be like 1 or 2 students, maybe 3, but we're probably looking at like 1 or 2 students.
Okay, that's answered my question. Approximately how many students would be involved?
3 would be a godsend. You know, one is probably more likely, but we probably could get two if there's two that's interested. And this is above and beyond their schoolwork. This is not a class.
It's like 600 hours.
They work for us. They can work co-op for us. We can pay them for their co-op hours, but their training and stuff they have to do, in order for them to stay in the program, they've got to do this class outside of school time. Now, we could give them a co-op period and let them work on it that one period or something, but if it works within their schedule, but we don't have to. And you can see the counties that's involved in this in red up there on the screen. A lot of counties involved. You'll see a lot of coal counties. If you go from Whitley County all the way up the eastern spine of the state there, all of those counties, I mean, they have bukus of Mac computers. You know, I mean, we're talking about hundreds in a lot of cases. And U of L's getting a lot of research capability out of these computers. It's a good program. I think it's worthwhile. My recommendation would be if we can find a student or two students that's interested, I think it'd be worth $8,000. It'd be an $8,000 investment we could make in students that may come back here and even work in our school system, or maybe one day teach in the tech center, who knows, in an IT program. So I think it's a good opportunity. It's my recommendation.
Is this something that has it been brought up to the students yet? Kind of, any ideas if anybody's?
Not by myself. Mr. Yost was also in the meeting with Mr. Saylor and I, and Brian Gupton, who is the CEO of DataSync. And it was upon Josh to go to the high school and present it. Don't know how he's doing that, but yes, he is trying to find those students that like others.
Okay, so I'd like to have a motion. Ms. Sheila, we need a second. Tammy Hardy, I'd like to call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? I think anytime that we can be for the kids, it's the right thing to do. So I think this would be a huge benefit for someone interested in this field of study. I think we also have a leave of absence that we need to approve.
Yes, we have a leave of absence requested by one of our employees. They had actually asked for a leave of absence from now until June 30th. I believe that you should grant this leave of absence. You all have to grant it. I will have Rebecca, I thought it was posted, evidently, and Stephen asked me this afternoon, did I need that? And I probably should have went ahead and made you all a copy. Stephen, would you care to get a copy of that letter? Did you go up?
It's on here. It's on here. Both
I
of them
thought
are
I
on
clicked
there.
on it.
Both of them are on there.
Well, I don't see
The
it.
doctor's letter and her letter's on there.
Well, it's not showing up on mine, but anyway, that's okay. So you see them, Rebecca, just make sure those do not go public.
My view is public, and so you can see there's nothing there.
Okay, evidently my view's public too, so I can't see them. So that's okay. It's fine. I didn't think they were there. Well, I didn't forget to send them to you. That's a good thing. She asked for June 30th. I believe it should go through May 31st, and that's where it should stop at, because her employment will be complete at that time. So my recommendation is for you all to approve this leave of absence through May 31st. Okay. Ms. Esford will abstain from this vote.
I'd just like to know if she's still, and I don't know, I was just saying, she's still doing her work from home that she does? Yes, that's why I'm asking.
No, the leave of absence means that she will not be working for the remainder of the school year. She's asking for unpaid leave.
No, I'm talking about from her business at home.
That's not our purview to really consider. And you gotta be careful, because the more we talk about it, the more we may identify.
We'd have to go into closed session if you're going to discuss.
Yeah, if you want to discuss it specifically. But this has more to do with the employment of this individual as a school employee. As a matter of fact, that would be unpaid for the rest of this particular school year. And if you all do want to discuss it more in a closed session, we can add closed session and discuss it. I can amend the agenda if you all want to discuss it. I mean, I don't care to. It won't take us 10 minutes to discuss it if we want to. If you want to do that, then we can ask Brian to just entertain the motion to add closed session to the agenda at this time. If that's what you all want to do.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so we'll amend it to closed session at this time. and-
Yeah, you would need a motion to amend the agenda and add closed session.
So Sheila makes the motion, Becca, Carrie seconded. All in favor? All right.
And then you would now ask for a motion to go into closed session, and since it's the topic that's on the floor, we'd go ahead and discuss it right now.
Okay, make a motion to closed session, Sheila, Tammy seconded. So at this time, we'll go into closed session.
Discuss personnel issues. and count.
Yes, and that will be what you will add to the agenda item. It was for personnel.
So at this time, I need a motion to come back into open session.
I make a motion.
I second.
Sheila made the motion, Tammy made the second. So, John, no action was taken on this situation, so.
Then we need to go back and reconsider item F under action items, which was a leave of absence. And my recommendation to you all is that we grant a leave of absence effective until May 31st.
Okay. So, to have someone make a motion. Sheila made the motion and Tammy seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So the motion carries.
And now Ms. Isford can re-enter the meeting. I'll get her.
Well, we look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Hey, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Got it.
All right, Ms. Isford, now that you're back, we're down to consent.
Okay, so, do you want to go over the consent items? or-
I'll just real quick, and the reason why we've sort of changed the board agenda is that we were getting too many action items under consent that needed to be discussed and probably needed separate approvals. So from now on, you'll see a list of items that are action items, and you'll see consent items. And normally, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you, you've seen the consent items, you've had a chance to review them. If there's anything you all want to discuss, I'm willing to discuss it. But if not, my recommendation is that you approve those consent items.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the minutes, 151, it's got the red letter, the numbers are on the page, what I'm going by.
They've been changed.
Okay, it says, it's my name, and it has A, and it should be N.
I have,
Correction in the copy.
So does that cover everything?
I
Even through this? Okay.
have a concern. I've been asked that we review public comments before we approve these consent items that are listed here. Because there was some people that had some questions specifically about Senate Bill 128 before we vote on approval. So I don't know if that's appropriate at this time to go to public comments before we actually vote.
Are any of the consent items affected by?
This vote on E, which is Senate Bill 128, you are not accepting or declining Senate Bill 128 tonight. All you are doing is approving the paperwork that will be posted as of tomorrow. Beginning tomorrow, each of our schools, will have application forms for parents who want to have the do-over year. They'll be at the school. We'll be posting a letter to the website tomorrow, Jeremy will take care of, that will tell our parents that in order for them to receive a supplemental year, they have to make an appointment with the principal of the school, and they have to pick up an application in order to apply. Because there's a lot of things involved with this, not necessarily at K through 5. But when you start getting to middle school and high school, there are some impacts that kids and parents need to realize in terms of KHSAA guidelines and all the rules that's involved with this. Because even though they were given a do-over year, there are a lot of situations where kids are not going to be eligible for athletics if they don't meet certain guidelines that are established by KHSAA. This is just not a do-over year and you get to come back and play sports and academics doesn't matter. So all that you're doing tonight is that you are basically reviewed the forms that parents will fill out to request that year. At the next meeting, you then have to make a determination whether you're going to honor the request that we receive or you're not going to honor those requests. So that's when action will take place. A lot of people thought tonight, and there's 3 or 4 comments on there about that they support Senate Bill 128, and they want you to honor it, and they want you to give kids a chance and all that. That's not tonight.
But we are honoring it by allowing them to fill out an application.
You're following the law.
To proceed with the process.
You're following the law. The law stated by May 1. And we're going to allow it to go to May 3rd because May 1 is on a Saturday. So as long as everybody has returned an application by May the 3rd, they will be eligible for a do-over year. At the board meeting on May 20th, you all will then decide if you are going to honor all of those or you're going to reject them. And you have to honor it all or none. That is the choice. Then at that point in time, we have to inform KDE what our decision is. Then I believe it's by June 20th, we have to have a plan in place. Our plan is already in place. The contract that they're going to get, that they have to sign off on from the principal, is our plan in terms of these are the things that you have to do.
These are the things that we will do. These are the things that you need to do to
That's
make this
exactly
happen.
right.
So it's not just one-sided. It's
Not just one
us,
side.
It's them too. It's a
That's right.
partnership. to
It's a
have
partnership. They've got
Rio
to,
year.
because the thing that is not realized by most people is that if you're a senior and you're going to redo, you've got to be enrolled in 4 full-time classes. That's KHSAA rules. If you're a senior that wants to play baseball again, you can't sit out the fall and come back at Christmas because KHSAA rule says that you have to be enrolled the semester before you played. You have to be passing classes every week. You have to be passing all 4 classes. So if you have a senior football player that comes back, they're enrolled in 4 classes, they're only passing 3 of the 4. They're ineligible. They can't play that Friday night. So all those KHSAA guidelines and rules are in place. That's in that contract. And it talks about that so that parents know. This is not just, as they said, some of the movies you've seen, that kids are just sitting there, they're doing nothing, but they get to play on Friday night. This is not that. This is supposed to be a true education bill. Sports is secondary in this bill. You still have to be enrolled in classes and doing what you're supposed to do. Tammy, you had a question?
Yes, okay, the way I read it, the thing that I was sent was, the way I understood it, that if they was in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, correct? That they could not play that same year again. Like if you was in 7th grade, you couldn't play 7th grade, you had to play up. Is that correct?
No, not in this rule. It's a do-over
Okay.
bill, so it's
Okay.
do-over period. But what's going to catch the middle school kids
Is when they get
is
to
that
high
there
school.
are age limits at middle school.
Oh, okay.
Anybody that turns 15 before August 1 can't play in 8th grade.
Okay.
So if they're redoing 8th grade and they're 15 in June 30th, they can't play on the high school team either.
No, I thought they could play on the high school team.
Not if they're doing over, they're enrolled at the 8th grade level.
Okay, see, I thought it said they could play up, but not back.
See, and I mean, it's possible they could play on a high school softball team or something, but see, they can't play football. There's some sports
Yeah,
that
it was
8th graders
football
can't
and
play.
soccer that they could
Yeah.
play. But basketball, baseball, and all that.
But they're ineligible for their middle school team. A 7th grader that turns 14 before August 1st, ineligible.
That's what I
A
thought.
6th grader that turns 13 before August 1st is ineligible.
Okay,
Senior that turns
that's what I was getting
Yeah.
at.
Senior that turns 19 is the other one that they're ineligible. It doesn't do them no good if they're doing it for sports purposes.
Okay, that's what.
And
Yeah.
the one exception that we did discuss about this before was if they were enrolled in classes and they had enough classes to graduate, but they want to come back the following year as a redo year, they could enroll in Voucher.
They can enroll, it says what they can do, and the board can make that decision that if we want to allow them to take an elective, that they can enroll in VOTEC, they can. The law says it is a do-over. In every sense of the matter, it is a do-over. So the classes that they're enrolled in right now are the classes that they've got to enroll in next year. Now, the exception to that has been, we have said if there are students that want to attend the tech center, we would make that exception that they could substitute the ATC program for the electives that they're enrolled in right now. That would be something that, as a board, we could decide to do, or you all could decide to do at that time.
But as you stated, it is the Kentucky state law, it is not the Judge Saylor law, it's not the Carrie Smallwood law, it's
No.
what is in these bylaws, what it's stated. We can't make up, okay, well, Joe can play and Tom can play, but Sally can't.
No,
This
we'll
is-
follow the
Right, this
KHSAA
is exactly-
guidelines
you know, we're not
as
making
they
up
are.
Our own rules for Estill County,
Right.
making up our own rules for
We'll follow-
individual player, team, etc.
No.
This is state.
All or none
law.
across the board, based on the policies that's in those documents that you've got there, that
Right.
you've looked at, that basically, that high school student is agreeing to each one of those bullets.
And see, that's what some people aren't understanding. They're thinking we, as individual community board, no, this is what we have to go by, what the state has put out.
The
not
state
us.
has put the major guidelines out. Now, I will say, some of the items, some of the bullet points are left the local board discretion.
Right.
Now, one thing though with these seniors is if they can't retake classes in an attempt to improve GPA or
That's
anything
it.
like that, they have to take, like Mr. Saylor was saying, they have to come in and take electives or whatever, but if they're eligible for a diploma in the spring, I think they've got to take it.
State law says they have to take a diploma. A senior that has 22 required credits based on your action you took a month ago. They graduate this year, they receive a diploma, they can come back to school, they retake the same classes, they still have to be passing all 4 classes to be eligible to do all those things, but they receive a diploma, they can't replace their grade. Their GPA is locked on their transcript. Now, these grades, their new grades can be put on their transcript, but they cannot count towards their GPA calculation. They can't improve their keys money status. They can't do any of that. They are graduates. Now, here's the thing, as a board, you know that you're accepting. If it's a freshman, sophomore, or junior, and they stay back, this school district will take a hit with graduation rate as part of accountability for that high school for the next 3 years. So any junior that stays back, that doesn't graduate on time next year, it will count against the high school's graduation rate. The sophomore will count against the high school graduation rate 2 years from now. The freshman will count against them 3 years from now. So it will take 3 years to get all that out of the system. Now, that doesn't have the impact. K through 8 doesn't have the same impact. Okay? But you're not approving 128 tonight, so I want everybody to know that. The board does not have to approve 128 tonight. All we're doing is approving the process by which kids can apply, and they've got the next 2 weeks, starting tomorrow.
And that information will be on our school Facebook page.
The letter will be on the school Facebook page. They will not get the application until they sit down with the principal and they go over each of those bullet points, so that they will know what they're agreeing to.
And will we be allowed to see who has applied for it, or will we not?
I can give you a list.
Okay.
We can supply the board with a list of students, I believe, that are repeating. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
As long as it's not an open session.
It's not, and it's gotta be in closed session, but I can give it to you. Or I can tell you the numbers.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have some students, guys, that's gonna be retained based on grades.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Based on grades.
And I don't have a problem with
We
Yeah.
should do
At all.
individual names.
Well, I can give them to you in closed session. I don't have to. I can't do them in open public. And really and truthfully, I don't know that, and I agree with Ms. Isford, I don't know that it's good that you all know who they are.
That's correct.
You just may want to know that it's been
Numbers are.
2 seniors. Numbers don't get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I tell you 2 seniors, 1 sophomore, and 2 freshmen, there was 5 high school students that took advantage. But I have to give you the numbers next
Okay,
time.
that's what I was.
I have to tell you how many students at each grade level has applied. And I'll be the first to tell you, your issue is gonna be Estill Springs. You're already over 100% capacity. So we'll have to figure that out if you
And those are
agree.
really the kids that need to be held out, I think.
And some of the ones that's requested, I can tell you, are students that would have been held back anyway based on grades.
Okay.
So it's almost a correlation. Most of the students that's requested would have been held back.
Okay, that's
Or
good.
could have been held back anyway. It's your high school is going to be the ones that will be,
Yeah.
that's more probably sport related.
Cautionary.
Okay, I think there was maybe a couple of things on public comments, is that right? Six
Six.
things? Do you want to talk about those now?
3 others was about construction,
Okay,
and I was going to hold those to public.
that's
It
great.
doesn't matter. There was 3 about 128, and the 3 about 128 basically said, please support 128.
okay,
Okay, so you all know there's a lot of people out there that are for this, okay? So you don't have to make that decision tonight, though. That's not what this is about. It'll be under action next time. That's why I put it under consent this time, because it's not up for a vote. None of these things are really up for a vote.
okay,
You got your Frisky contract, your NTI plan for next year, because we will be using NTI days. You got the MOA for a teacher that's going to be working at KDE. So those are just pretty much straightforward requests. The health department's requested the use of facility for COVID-19 or COVID vaccinations. I'm asking you to approve that as a blanket waiver that they can use our facility anytime they ask. So that are your consent items.
Got done with that one?
so.
And we can
we're
address
gonna
those
go-
again.
We're gonna go back to public comments. The big one was Senate Bill 128. I
Yeah,
think
and there's
that was the
3
big
of
one.
them about 128. I looked at them before I come down here.
Okay.
I think there's still just 6, right, Jeremy?
That's correct.
Okay.
I have not closed it yet. I won't close it usually until we get to.
That's fine.
the Public comments section.
So my recommendation is to approve the consent items for this meeting.
Okay, so Brian makes a motion and Tammy Hardy makes a second. I'd like to call for a vote at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. So we're down to Mr. Saylor's report.
Superintendent reports, pretty much your normal stuff. You got the notification personnel actions, that's listed there. You've got a document with year-end festivities, and we're trying to keep that up to date, and we'll update it even more in terms of what the schools are doing, in terms of drive-through ceremonies and things like that, high school graduation. We did set, and it's a board function, but I told the high school that May 28th, May 29th are the dates for graduation. And we put double dates in case of weather, because it will have to be outside. We cannot go in the gym. So if it's raining like cats and dogs on the night of the 28th, the graduation will be on Saturday. We'll find a window that we can have it, but we're not having an indoor ceremony because of COVID. So make sure you got those dates, but I supplied those to you. I can't remember who made that list. It may have been Rebecca. Did you put that list together? So it's put together for you. Just a spring sports update. Next Monday is segment 2 of the opening for spring sports. And we are making some changes in terms of concession guidance because we've seen a decrease in COVID numbers. And guys, I get this all the time. You guys are getting beat up. Why do we have to do this? Why are they making us do that? Why are they making it do that? Sean, can you tell them one more time why it's important that we follow the guidance that's been issued by KHSAA
Give
and
him
our
the
local health
microphone.
department?
Give him the microphone. Give him the microphone, please.
Because I'm really almost to the point, I mean, I'll answer it, but I'm getting tired of answering it. Because I can tell you that as long as I'm your superintendent, we're going to follow the guidance. Sean, if you don't care to tell them why it's important.
Well, because as a board, you have a degree of immunity, sovereign immunity, that insulates you from, liability, legal liability. But once you start ignoring guidelines set by state agencies, by your local health department, then you start exposing yourself to potential liability. And so, because the way the immunity works is if you're following protocol and you're doing what you're supposed to do, then you're kind of cloaked in that immunity. But once you start making judgment calls and you get outside of what's recommended, you're violating what's called ministerial duties. You start running into some trouble. So, I mean, it's a protect the board situation. You lose you start losing that cloak of immunity when you go off, when you ignore protocols, when you ignore mandates, and when you ignore, guidelines set forth by KHSAA, KDE, your local health department. We've got to follow all those in order to keep our immunity intact.
So if anybody asks you all why we're doing what we're doing, you can tell them it's coming directly from me. Our ADs are getting beat up. Our district ADs getting beat up over it. They're getting beat up on Facebook. They're getting beat up on social media. I'm telling you guys, right here's the person. Blame me. You can blame me 100%. We're going to follow the guidelines or we'll shut it down.
We have to.
We have to.
You can't, there's really no choice.
I'll give you a prime example. There was some school districts in western Kentucky, because of the attendance limitations, they got the great idea that we'll just remove the bleachers from our baseball field and we can have anybody up here we want. Okay? And we're supposed to be at 25% capacity in segment 1. Well, guys, the last time, if you've done any math lately, what is 25% times 0?
0.
0. So the minute they removed all their bleachers, they could not have any fans based on the guidance. There is no way around this stuff. Now, I can ignore it, but I'm not going to, because I plan on retiring 2 years from now. I've made it clear. I've announced my retirement 2 years ahead of time. But I've got a lot of work to do, and my main reason is to protect kids, protect employees, protect this school district. And I'm going to do that because I don't want to be called back 4 years from now because we have 600 people show up at a baseball game. We have a COVID outbreak. Somebody takes it in on their grandmother who dies, and then they sue the school district because we did something wrong. And quite honestly, I don't care what any other school district around us does. If they want to violate the policies, they want to violate the guidance, it's on them. It won't be on us. So we do get the relaxed regulations on the 18th. We're going to do so. You see right there the document today on the concession guidance. Do you know who helped put that concession guidance together? The Estill County Health Department, along with our school personnel staff, put that together. That's the guidance we're going to follow. We're asking everybody to follow that guidance. If anybody fails to follow that guidance and we find out about it, then we'll shut the concession stands down. We're allowing you to do what we can based on the guidance that we're given. And whenever there's a lot of responsibility, you got responsibility on you, got a responsibility to follow the guidance that you have. And if you don't follow the guidance, then you lose your privilege. Our coaches know this, our ADs know this, and they're working exactly at my direction. So if you want to criticize anybody out there in the public, you criticize me. But I'm not a COVID denier. Just because it's better doesn't mean it can't get worse. I hope people continue to get vaccinated. I hope people continue to wear their mask. I hope people continue to social distance the best that you can. And hopefully if we continue to do that, we're going to be back at school 100% on August 4th. That should be everybody's goal. And I can tell you that our major goal right now is that we get to go to school every day between now and May 21st. We can't afford a shutdown. Because if we get shut down 10 days, we're going to have to make them up, guys. There is no getting out of school May 21st at that point. We've got 5 days that we could use in case of some type of breakdown. When the law changed, when they signed, I forget what House Bill, 208? 208 was the one that come out of the House that gave us the relief for next year. We're counting 18, 19, one more year. But in 208, it said you had to come back to full-time enrollment. And if you don't come back to full-time enrollment, every day after 5, you've got to make up. So if everybody wants out of school May the 21st, we need to follow every protocol and every guideline we can. We can't afford to have a breakout in our community, or we're going to start postponing and be going to school in June. So let's do what's right. If we can just take a breath, we've put up with all these restrictions, whether you believe in them or not. We've done it for a year. Guys, we can do it for 6 more weeks. On May 21st, on the last student attendance day, we're gonna relax fundraising requirements. Boosters and everybody can begin in-person fundraising requirements again. You're gonna have to wear a mask. You're gonna do the proper protocols, but you're gonna be able to do in-person fundraising. But that's May 21st. We'll relax them as you go. Just please give us the opportunity to get through the school year. That's the most important thing. If you all are okay on a retiree celebration, we've not had a retiree celebration now in a year and a half because of COVID. I would like to do that at the June board meeting. So if you all would allow us to do that, I'd like to do.
People that have retired during COVID.
Yeah, they retired last year. We didn't honor the December retirees from last year, the June retirees from this past year, the December retirees, and our current retirees. We've got the last 2 years. I would like to hold an event at Estill County High School in the gym lobby where we could have some refreshments. It's a pretty big space. We can social distance in that area. We can even go in the gym if we need to, based on who RSVPs. And then we can come down to the auditorium. It's plenty big enough to social distance, and let's honor our retirees. Because listen, if you've given your time, we need to do that.
I agree.
And if you all are good with that, the June board meeting will be at Estill County High School. And we'll get the date on that, but it's always somewhere right around this same time.
Do we have to make that a special call?
It will be a special called meeting because it's in a new spot. It will have to be.
Just once you said at the beginning of the year, anytime you change it, it's got to be special.
Probably would be a 5:15, something like that. Board meeting start at 6. We could go 5 to 6 just in case people wanted to get there early, but we'll work out all the details. Board meeting will still start at 6. Then the next item is the May board meeting. I know that the ATC is going to about be done, but we've not had a walkthrough in a while. I didn't know if you all wanted to maybe meet at the ATC at the May meeting at 5:15.
Yeah, I've never been there.
We can walk through at 5:15, but then we would come here to go to the session. So what we would probably do is advertise 2 board meetings that night. We would advertise a special called board meeting, let's say at 5 o'clock for the walkthrough. We can adjourn it when it's over. Then we'd come here and have our regular called meeting. And I think that would meet the guidelines in terms of open meetings and all that.
As long as it's announced.
And I have nothing under other, Ms. Isford.
Did we discuss the FRC?
It's just to approve the contract for this coming year.
Okay,
It's
I didn't know if we.
as it is,
anything
yes.
Discussed on that or not, okay. What about NTI?
It's just to approve the 10 NTI snow days for the coming year that we've had in the past. We didn't have NTI until this 2 years ago. So now, once the cat's out of the bag, there's no going back. So we can have 10 days next year. Everything, and it was House Bill 208, as Sean and I think we sort of settled on there a minute ago, that everything goes back to normal this fall. So NTI days are weather-related days. Everybody's in full person attendance on August 4th. And so everything goes back to sort of normal in a sense. We are going to take advantage of that waiver that allows us to count attendance day for day. Now, last time, Ms. Isford, we agreed for board member forum, so we now have that on there. So any items the board wishes to discuss.
Okay. At this time, Brian, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
No? Sheila? No? Tamara? Terry? Well, I have something.
Okay.
Our engineer softball team is on fire.
Yes, they are.
And I think our baseball team is getting off to a good start. So congratulations to them.
They've had a good start, and, I know that there's a little bit of fussing and stuff going on, but our players and our coaches, they're following protocol as it's been issued, and There's been no fussing and stuff out of our players. They're happy to be there. They're happy to have a season. You know, and that's the funny thing. You know, I went off the KHSAA board last year, but at that time it was just let us have a season. If we can have a season, it'll be okay. And now it's, well, let us have a season if we can have more concession sales. Or let us have a season if we can travel overnight somewhere. Well, you know, all those things are just not possible right now. We'll eventually get back there.
And I understand people, it's old, and I understand people's frustrations. It doesn't make it okay out there sometimes, but, and I think everybody is ready to see COVID go away. Obviously, that's not the case. And,
Yeah.
and it'll be around for a long time, and we'll have to continue to deal with that. But I feel like that, you know, people get frustrated from the fact of the helplessness feeling, you know, sometimes, so.
Well, and it sure doesn't help when somebody else is just ignoring every guideline and every protocol. It doesn't help because nobody just doesn't understand what's going on. And listen, 99% of the people are tickled to death just to have the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Because ask any senior that graduated last year that didn't get a chance to play baseball, softball, run track, or play tennis. Ask them how they feel.
Or go to prom.
Or go to the prom, or have a graduation, so.
And then I just had one other thing. Our track has someone running track, and they've already broken 3 school records this year. So they must be running like Forrest Gump.
That's right. Won't it be nice to have a track?
I was like,
So-
our tennis team is doing it.
And so tennis, I heard, is doing well at track. I've heard a lot of positive comments about these sports.
Won't it be nice to have brand-new tennis courts that they can play on? And won't it be nice to have an 8-lane track and be able to host a regional track meet if we want to? And all those things. I mean, guys, there's fantastic things going on in school. If we could focus on the positive, put those other few little things behind us, God, there's so many positive things going on. We've got a lot to be proud of. This board's got a lot to be proud of. Former board's got a lot to be proud of. Our teachers, our staff, our parents, our students, there's a lot to be proud of. I'm proud to be a part
I
of
just
it.
have one other thing.
Okay.
I know you and I talked on Monday about it. I had gotten several just concerns about where the band practices and about the place being vandalized, and how can we make that area more secure? And I know you and I talked about a fence, and I didn't know if there was any follow-up to that.
Trailer got broke into a while back too, did it?
I'm sorry?
The semi got broke into the
The
trailer.
semi was broken into, the door's been torn off the tower several times, and then there's been a 4-wheeler out on the field that has torn up the grass that they sowed. Mr. Saylor and I met on Monday to get our agenda together, and we talked about ways to fix that, and maybe talked about putting a fence like we have at the football field. And he was gonna talk to Jason about that, so I just wondered what the follow-up was
I
to
think
that.
that Ms. Mullins actually followed up with the band and band boosters. They had a meeting, and I know she's reported back to me that, you know, I spoke to her too, because, you know, it's being the school there at Estill Springs, her being the principal, I want her to feel comfortable with what goes on that school property first and foremost. I think we've agreed that probably just from a safety standpoint from our kids, that it's not a bad idea to fence that area behind that building. That would possibly, and we're even gonna look at the other side against that creek in terms of whether or not there needs to be a fence that extends from the edge of the playground all the way back to the fence that's on the property there with the housing project. So that can be done. I've not talked to Jeremy yet, but we do want to look at some cameras that will be able to, if we do have a break-in, that we're going to be able to see possibly who is doing that. And we've got problems with the tower because there's people that's breaking into the tower and then they're climbing that tower. And also there's problems around, we've had people break into that maintenance facility several times. As you all know, we're renovating that facility, should be done here this summer with it, and we will put some cameras on that maintenance facility as well. That way it will have direct pictures of those trailers and stuff like that. But, you know, they're gonna have a problem no matter where our maintenance facility's been broke into several times, the little storage building's been broke into several times. No matter where they park that trailer, there's gonna be somebody that's gonna break into it unless they can back it all the way up against something and leave it parked to where you can't get into it, then they can't get into it. Now, I know they moved one of their trailers down on the football field in view of the camera. We just gotta get some more cameras out there, so Jeremy, I need to follow up with you on that. But, we probably are going to fence that area. It probably won't stop a truck or a car from going through it. They'll just run through the fence if they decide to, but we will direct that. But the other issue is that in terms of use of that facility, the band does have first priority when it comes to practice on that facility. They moved from that parking lot. They've done a lot of work out there, but I also want them to know that if Little League softball team wants to practice on that field, they're going to practice on it. They're our kids. If soccer's going to practice, they can practice on it. We can take control of. They don't have to spend their money to reseed the field or returf the field. We can do that. That's maintenance. I don't expect the boosters to do that. We'll maintain the field. We just need to be communicated with. If it needs to be reseeded, we can do that. That's not a big issue. Because we currently pay to reseed the football field. Well, next fall, not this coming one, we won't have to reseed the football field because it'll be turf. All we have to do is just move that contract to Estill Springs, and it doesn't cost us anything. We can upkeep the field. So we'll take care of all those issues. I will tell you to follow up concession stand. Todd's gonna be dealing with the concession stand there at the high school. That was something that was mentioned that needs to be done, and we've got some other things that's going on, but our maintenance guys have done a fantastic job.
And sometimes instead of just like thinking we're not interested, if you'll just let us know what's going on, we can address some of these things. And Mr. Saylor tells everyone his phone number.
606-643-7899. Everybody, if you don't
So-
have it, you don't want it.
Yeah, so,
And I don't blame you. Some of you, I wouldn't want my phone number either. But if you don't want my phone number, all you gotta do is go to the district website. And if you pull up Jeff Saylor, superintendent, it's got my email right there, doesn't it, Mr. Simpson? You can email me directly.
but just ask,
Listen.
just let us know.
Yeah, nobody's gonna bite your head off
Just
for
let us
asking.
know.
And sometimes I know I come across rough sometimes. I talk loud and people thinks I'm mean. I'm really not mean at heart. I mean, I can get mean. I can get right down there with the best of them if I need to, but just because I talk loud doesn't mean I'm not approachable. All you gotta do is approach. Had somebody wanted to apply for a job the other day. I said, well, it's not been posted yet, but I'm glad you're interested. I can be pretty personal at times. If you've got something that's an issue, I'll be glad. And that's like the public comments, I guess we're getting ready to go to. There was several questions about some facility stuff. I've already answered that. I've already replied to the person.
I think there was a couple of, you already done all
Yeah,
that. Okay.
I replied, and we can go to those, Jeremy, if you want to. I think that's where we're at. Any other board member stuff? So from the public standpoint, I know there was a question about the signs for the bus garage. The state highway puts those signs up. So that is something that they do. And then there was another question. It's the first three, I think, Jeremy. What happened to the sign at the central office? Well, the sign at the central office got in such bad repair. I'm telling you, sometimes you just got to put something to sleep and put it to bed, and that sign
Well,
was
we had
terrible.
complaints that it looked bad.
Had
And so we
complaints.
took it down,
Now we got complaints that it's not
that
there.
it's not there.
But,
But
you
we're
know,
gonna try to put a new one up.
we're going to, at some point in time, we'll look at trying to put a sign up.
And maybe one that's electric that you can.
I'm
put
wanting to
this
try, and
inside.
I've got to talk to Peter about it, how we can get electric to one. I know we had a group of, I know that Mr. Williams had contacted me that some of his graduating class would be interested in maybe putting an electronic sign at the high school, middle school ATC. You know, we just got to figure out electric on that, and I need to talk to Peter about that, and I will as part of this. But if there's a group that's interested in that, and I'll reach back out to Kevin and find out if they're still interested in doing that. But I think it's a perfect time with that high school renovation to do that. I'd rather have a sign at our schools than have one here. As long as people know this is the Estill County Board of Education, I'd like to have a sign at Estill Springs. It's right on the main drag as well.
Speaking of signs,
Yes.
when we get done with all the renovation at the baseball, and I text about it, but I just got a couple comments. But do you think that we could name the road going up to the baseball and softball field after all's been done?
I think there is some policies in place. We'd have to see what the policies
Okay.
are in place at the
But
district
you'll
in
just
terms
put a
of
little sign up like Doug Lane or
naming
the-
something along after somebody.
Yeah, okay.
We would just have to see what our board policies
Okay.
are. We can look into that. And,
Yeah, baseball number or something, just something for a memory thing of it.
so we can look into that board policy, but that's why the signs at the bus garage, the state highway's taking care of that. The second question, Jeremy, was,
Also, one thing, shouldn't we read who sent these because these are public comments and they are public record?
it can be, this was Tim Rose. He submitted the first 3 questions, and I mean, it's not private to do so. Plans at Old Irvine High, I think we've talked about that several times. We'd like to save the gym portion of Old Irvine. The classroom portion of that building is beyond saving and needs to be torn down. But we're hoping to be able to save part of it. This is like the 4th time we've made an effort to save that building. We're gonna try one more time. But if we cannot save that building before I leave here 2 years from now, I will tear Old Irvine High down and it will be gone when I'm gone. Because that's what the Irvine High graduates asked me to do. The Irvine High alumni has asked me to tear that building down and not let it rot down. And I will honor that promise. So if I leave here 2 years from now and we've not been able to do something with it, it will be on the ground and gone.
And I was there when they said that.
You was there as a
I was
witness.
there. Miss Sheila.
Yes, ma'am.
Question, the windows are up at the overtime. Is the reasoning behind it because?
We were letting the
We're
bats
trying
out.
to let,
There's a fuzzy bat that lives there.
the mold is unreal in
I
there.
know all about the mold.
It's the ventilation. We're trying to ventilate that building in case there is somebody needs being there that I'm telling you, it's almost dangerous for anybody to go in that
I know,
building.
last time I was in it, I wore this,
Yeah.
and it was all I could do.
You can't get a good breath in there. So we raised the windows to try to let it air out somewhat.
I wondered if that's the reason why.
But we knew that when the electric and everything was cut off, there was no heat and stuff in there. We knew it was gonna go. The roof has been collapsing for 6 years. It started leaking 6 years ago. So the entire upstairs roof from Estill Springs over to about midway to building is ready to go. It's not even safe to be up there walking around. So that's how bad the building is.
And see, that just gets it more.
But one of the things that we did talk about doing is maybe starting to cut up some pieces of the wood floor and auctioning them off or having a fundraiser.
Yeah, we could possibly do something with parts of the floor if somebody wanted something, out of there. Honestly, what happens though, when you award a demo contract, basically you'd have to specify in the contract that you wanted this much of the floor or you'd want to keep this because the demo contract, part of that demo contract that reduces the cost of tearing it down is that anything that can be salvaged out of there, they salvage it to reduce the cost. But now I'm telling you, there's not a lot to salvage. It's in bad shape. Stoplight in front of the high school, middle school, and landfill entrance. That's been studied by the Kentucky Transportation Department.
It's out of
It does
our
not
control.
meet the guidelines for a stoplight. And we've had it looked at 2 or 3 times. We've even had conversations with some pretty high people about that, and it just does not meet the standards because really the only time you need a stoplight is from 7:30 to 8:15 and from 2:45 to 3:30. And so it's not worth the money that it takes to put a stoplight in for 3 hours a day.
But I have noticed that in the mornings and the evenings out there at the bus, the bus garage and the other one, that a lot of people, they're kind of watching out, like they'll stop and let 2 or 3 out, and then the other one stop and let somebody turn. They're kind of, you know what I'm saying, just everybody's kind of looking out for each other.
Well, I think they do, and I think one thing that will help whenever all the road patterns is done, as you know, the middle school, high school is being separated, so you have to go into middle school, and that's the only place you can go. If you want to go to high school, you got to come out the middle school entrance, come down Engineer Road, go into the high school. Engineer Road during the school hours needs to be one way, so all traffic needs to come in at the top where the middle school entrance is. The middle entrance where the landfill's at is going to be blocked off of the mornings during school, so nobody can turn in there. So everybody has to turn in at the middle school entrance, and you come down Engineer Road, just like pit lane at NASCAR. You know, you either go up the middle school, or you come down to the high school, or then when you come out at either one of them, you go all the way down Engineer Road, and you go out at the bottom if you're going to town.
They're all letting each other out and stuff.
And it will help when it becomes one way. If you're going back north now, you'd use the center lane and you would go out north and go back. But it will help when it becomes one lane during school hours. And then the other three questions was all about 128. And just basically asking the board, you've got a lot of people, this is Kevin, again, asking the board to consider 128, and you'll get to do that at the next meeting. We've also got two others, Jeremy. This one was from Robert Forehand, same thing, wanting you all to consider 128. It's about the kids, and we say that all the time. And the last one is from Nell Williams. And again, as a former teacher, she's asking you to also consider 128. We'll get the numbers, we'll bring them back to you. May board meeting, you'll get the chance to vote up and down whether to honor 128 or not. We'll know more about the numbers at that time. That's it for public.
Okay. There's nothing further, then I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Starved.
So Brian is starving, and he makes a motion, and Sheila makes a second. So all in favor of adjournment, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries to go to the house.
What would you have done if somebody opposed?
We'd sit here.